introduce our pets.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. I am Jennifer Martinez with the City's Communications Office. And today I am going to introduce you to a cat and dog of the week. Oops, wrong one. Wrong month. I'm very glad to see a lot of people in here today because our cat and dog get a lot of attention. So hopefully somebody's in the market for a forever pet. First, we have Fluffy. This ginger girl is hoping to celebrate St. Patrick's Day early with an adoption. She is beautiful and she loves company. She loves to meow for attention and will reach out to let you know when she wants to get pet. And she loves to give headbutts. And if you're familiar, cats do that to leave their scent on you from their glands located on their face, and it's to let other cats know that their territory has been claimed. And then we have our dog, Penny. Penny is a 3-year-old female that's been at the shelter for about a year. She is an excitable girl who is hoping to find luck in a forever family. She's a little picky with other dogs, but she does get along fine if she gets a proper introduction. She would love to be the next loving addition to your life. You can meet either of these two by making an appointment to go to the Animal Services Center. You can call 382-0018, and then come to the farmers market this weekend if you want to see any of the other animals that are up for adoption. That runs from 9 a.m. to noon this Saturday. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Jennifer. And I see Dr. Francisco Payadas coming down. He's going to give our jobs of the week. Thanks, Jennifer.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. For today's Jobs of the Week, we have a senior buyer for the City of Las Cruces. This position is paying between $23.79 to $33.69 per hour. And this position will be closing on the 21st of March of 2022. There's also positions for maids and housekeepers, and this is with Motel 6. The salary for this is $13 an hour, and the positions will be closing on March 31st of 2022. Peraton Incorporated is also hiring a systems administrator number 2. The salary for this position was not disclosed, and the position will be closing on the 23rd of May of 2022. We also have SEP cook and site assistant for Adelante Development Center Incorporated. This position is going to be paying $11.50 an hour, and it's going to be closing on the 26th of March of 2022. And lastly is the American Beverages are paying for a merchandiser. This position is paying $15.40, and this will be closing on March 20th of 2022. As always, for a full list of jobs, internships, volunteer opportunities, please visit employeenm.com or governmentjobs.com/careers/Las Cruces. And the information for our friends at the New Mexico Workforce Connection. They're located at 226 South Alameda Boulevard, and their phone number is 524-6250. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
I don't do this often. Thank you. Okay, so looks like we have a great turnout here. So, Mrs. Hamilton, you want to join me up front, please? You brought the whole state of New Mexico. I know the Lieutenant Governor is supposed to join us, as well as I know Representative Ferrari is in the audience, State Auditor Brian Colon. I see retired U.S. Ambassador Delano Lewis and his wife Gail. I see Dr. Earl Neeson. I see the Sheriff Kim Stewart, Bobby Green, the President of NAACP. I see Commissioner Shannon Reynolds. I see a retired Senate Pro Tem, Mary Kay Papin. Who else did you bring? You know, I like to joke around with Mrs. Hamilton. I was just telling her that I guess it was, I went to Lynn Middle School in 1976, 75, and Mr. Roper was my first principal. And then, of course, when summer comes, and then we start the new school year. Here's Mrs. Hamilton. She's a really nice lady. She never swatted me or paddled me, so that's good. And she's amazing. Simply amazing, if I could sum it up in one word. So I have a proclamation here for you that I'd like to read. It says, whereas Doris Hamilton was born on March 7th, 1928 in Pine Bluff, Arkansas. So we're also going to sing happy birthday to you after, okay? Whereas Doris Hamilton became a trailblazer at an early age. She was personally congratulated by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. for becoming the first African-American woman to graduate from the University of Arkansas in the 1940s, despite Jim Crow laws and the obstacles of legal segregation. And whereas Doris Hamilton was the first African-American female principal in the state of New Mexico, where she served for 23 years at Lynn Middle School, formerly known as Lynn Junior High School. And whereas Doris Hamilton affected the lives of more than 20,000 students and their families in the city of Las Cruces, where she has resided for more than 60 years. And whereas Doris Hamilton has fought for the oppressed and the disenfranchised her entire life. And whereas Doris Hamilton has recently brought attention to the plight of elderly citizens in our state and the need for guardianship reforms, which has led to the passing of House Bill 234 and Senate Bill 35, which closes loopholes in the guardianship system. And whereas Doris Hamilton has dedicated her life to social justice, excellence in education, and service to others with grace, dignity, and without fanfare. Now, therefore, we, the Mayor and City Council of Las Cruces, New Mexico, do by proclaim Monday, March 7th, 2022, as Doris Hamilton Day, and urge our citizens to engage in service to others and support excellence in education and honor Doris Hamilton's 94th birthday. And we would also like to present you this key to the city, Ms. Doris Hamilton. So this key only works on the side door, Ms. Hamilton, but anytime you're welcome to come in. Now, is Lieutenant Governor here? Is he here, or the State Auditor? Or I know Representative Ferrari. The three asked if they could say a couple words. So, Representative Ferrari, did you want to start it off?
She should.
Did you want to say something, Ms. Hamilton? Yeah.
I am glad to see all of you. Thank you for coming. And I am so grateful for the recognition that I'm now receiving. I thank Las Cruces City Council and friends and family. I'm honored and humbled to receive this recognition. Your remembrance of me and my dedication to education and civil rights for all is a touching moment, and I will never forget any of it, I hope. And I see so many people that I recognize, but maybe can't recall the name for. But anyway, it's nice of you to come, and it's nice to receive this recognition. I appreciate it very much. Thank you.
also want to recognize a person who's not a stranger to anyone, and that's former Woman of the Year, Frances Williams. Good to see you, Frances.
Good afternoon, mayors, city councilors, and audience and electeds, and especially Mrs. Doris Hamilton. I'm going to read you a poem that I think is so appropriate for today on Mrs. Hamilton's birthday. That woman is a success who loves life and lives it to the fullest, who has discovered and shared the strengths and talents that are uniquely her own, who puts her best into each task and leaves each situation better than she found it, who seeks and finds that which is beautiful in all people and all things, whose heart is full of love and warm with compassion, who has found joy in living and peace within herself. This was written by Barbara Burrell, and thank you, Mrs. Hamilton, for being that successful woman. Even in the past few years, when your rights were ignored and you courageously fought for them to be restored, you were the voice of so many being similarly victimized. It wasn't your privacy from the media that you were concerned about. It was your freedom to make your own decisions for your life. Thank you again, Mrs. Hamilton, for being that voice. Happy birthday.
And I see the Honorable Howie Morales walked in, our Lieutenant Governor. So, Mr. Lieutenant Governor, would you like to come forward and say a couple words?
Good afternoon. It's so good to be here with everyone. I see the smiles. I see some of the tears that were shed just a little while ago. Representative Ferrari, such beautiful words that were shared and so meaningful when we have an opportunity to celebrate all that we're celebrating today and always. You know, this is such a special occasion that I didn't want to just come on my own as a constitutional officer of the state. I wanted to bring another constitutional officer of the state of New Mexico, the state auditor, Brian Colon. And Brian Colon will please join me up here. As Brian makes his way up here, I do want to share just, Mr. Mayor, Honorable Council, it's so good to be here with you. Such a wonderful celebration that we have just within the historic aspect of what this council means, and of course our city manager, the continual work that you do on behalf of the citizens of Las Cruces. You know, when we look and see what today signifies, it's amazing because it really is about the trailblazing spirit of what is shared and what is done. And I know as an educator, knowing the impact that you have on students' lives, you may not even recognize the many trees that you planted that are producing so much shade these days. But as an educator, you do your work, not necessarily because of what comes through the income. Where you do the work is because of the outcome that has taken place and our history that we've seen, that you have shown as a trailblazer, as a compassionate leader who's out there recognizing the value and the opportunities that those students will bring for potential change. And it's a wonderful celebration, as you can see all across this room, as we look at the history of what is done, of so many firsts that have taken place, but not the last. Because the heart that was shared by connecting with every single student, regardless of where they came from, regardless of what their background may have been, the love that was connected is something we may never know. But today I hope is a testament to the amount of admiration that us as educators have for you and the continual work that you show us and inspire us to be a part of. So I want to take this time to allow our state auditor to come in, because he wanted to share a few words as well of the impact that you have, not only here in the community, but across the state of New Mexico. Mr. Auditor.
Thank you, Governor, and thank you, Mayor, honorable councilors. It's great to be back in Las Cruces. I think I was here just last month addressing you. And as I stand here before you today, what a great collision of universes and celebrations. We've just begun Women's History Month, and I get to stand before the all-female council. All due respect, Mr. Mayor. And we just wrapped up Black History Month. And what do we have? We have the trailblazing first African-American black principal in the history of our land of enchantment, the Tierra del Encanto, right here in Doris Hamilton. So I think when they designated those 2 months, they said, well, when's Doris's birthday? We'll try and get it real close and bring those 2 months together. And that's what we did. Look, it's an honor to be here. It's always a privilege to share the microphone with my lieutenant governor, who, when the governor's out of the state, he's governor, so I always address him as governor, the highest office he has held. Great to be here with former senators, great to be here with leaders of our NAACP, or as we say now, the NAACP. So we slow it down a little bit and recognize that incredible leadership and work. Rio, it's great to be with you. And Ms. Hamilton, it's great to see you in person instead of just on Zoom, although I must say, you look good on Zoom. You look good on Zoom. And even better in person. Happy birthday. I just want to close and say that in my 4th year as the state auditor, many of you know that when I took office, we had a pilot program. So that the Office of the State Auditor could provide some oversight on guardianships and, more importantly, conservatorships in New Mexico. And much of that was brought out by the Ayudando case. Many of the advocates in this room that I look out and see, you shined a light on waste, fraud, and abuse in New Mexico, in particular, the abuse of our elders and those who are in our margins in our community and who don't have a voice many, many times. What I'm proud to be able to tell you today is that as we stand here with the leadership of our governor, our lieutenant governor, and our legislators, we have now taken that pilot program, we have implemented it into a full-fledged program. We have added 3 more members of the staff of the state auditor's office, strictly committed and dedicated to protecting the subjects of conservatorships here in the state of New Mexico. That's real leadership. That's what's happened under this administration. So I'm proud to implement, as I finish my 4th year as your state auditor, and just know that there are a lot of civil servants out there that are uncomfortable with the way conservatorships and guardianships have been implemented, overseen in the past, and that we're not going to stop fighting until we're comfortable that the people we love most, who need a voice the most, are being heard, seen, loved, and appreciated here in our Tierra del Encanto, the land of enchantment. My name is Brian Colon. Happy birthday, Doris Hamilton.
Thank you, Mr. Auditor. You know, every time I have a chance to kind of recognize our friends, I always forget 1 or 2, and I know I've done that. So real quickly, I just want to recognize our good friend Ernestine Simmons, who I see out in the audience. So Ernestine, good to see you. And I believe that's it.
Maria Flores.
Maria Flores. Oh. Where's Maria? Where's Maria? Oh, yeah, good to see you, Maria.
She gets a tardy check by her name.
Okay. Well, I think there's also want to do some pictures, so you up for some pictures, Mrs. Hamilton? You want to take a couple pictures? Yeah, okay, so and I understand this is the son, Rio? Yeah, nice to meet you. If you want to join us for a quick photo. What's that? And former county manager Julia Brown. Good to see you, Julia.
One more, please.
Again, thank you, all of you who came out today to make this a very special birthday for our good friend, Mrs. Doris Hamilton. So thank you again. Oh, that's right. We're going to sing happy birthday to Mrs. Hamilton. So let's just wait till she's seated. Okay, so I'll let Councilors Bencomo and Beta and Council Mayor Pro Tem start it off. Oh, you're going to start it off?
Let's do it.
Oh, there's cake out in the lobby.
Oh, well, we need to bring
Nice. Are we ready?
Okay, let's start.
One, two, three. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Mrs. Hamilton. Happy birthday to you. And many more.
What an extraordinary moment. We're so happy for you and so happy for you to have a key to our city and our hearts, for sure. We have two more proclamations to sort of recognize our community at the moment. First, a proclamation in honor of healthcare workers, and I think we have representatives from our three hospitals here, Memorial Medical Center, Mountain View, and Three Crosses Regional Hospital, so I'm hoping that you folks might come down and receive this recognition, those of you who are here. So it's, this is a proclamation for Healthcare Workers Appreciation Day. Whereas it's been 2 years since the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic, and whereas the pandemic, especially in the beginning, resulted in hospitals and healthcare workers having to pivot to meet the needs of our communities, and whereas the unified vision to protect patients is realized at every level of healthcare organizations, from housekeeping, janitorial, and support staff to the ICU nurses, doctors, and respiratory therapists. And whereas healthcare workers had to adjust practices to find places to care for COVID-19 patients while keeping other patients safe from the virus. And whereas the responsibility, dedication, and fortitude of these devoted individuals to continue administering service in the face of danger and uncertainty serves as an absolute inspiration to all. And whereas the uncertainty of the virus and its variants have taken a toll on all healthcare workers and their families. And whereas the appreciation for healthcare professionals during this crisis cannot be overstated. Now, therefore, we, the Mayor and City Council of Las Cruces, New Mexico, do hereby proclaim that March 15th, 2022 as Healthcare Workers Appreciation Day. And I think you all might want to say, do you all have any, do you all want to say anything? We have.
All I would like to do is say thank you for all the support for all the hospitals, and stay safe.
Councilor, if I may jump in real quick before our healthcare workers leave, I just want to tell you briefly, that proclamation is just a small token of our appreciation. I have to tell you something. All of you and your teams have been on around the clock for the last 2 years plus, keeping our city safe, going to work at risk of your own lives. We can't even begin to tell you how much we appreciate each and every one of you. This, like I said, was just a small token of our appreciation. Hopefully, someday when that time comes, we may be able to have a nice parade for all the healthcare workers in our city, because you guys stood in the face of danger and you just took care of all of our residents and our relatives, our friends, our neighbors, our parents, everyone. Thank you so much for that, and I think it deserves a standing applause. Thank you, Ms. Hamilton.
Thank you, Mayor.
Well, one last thing. Also, I forgot to mention, and I apologize, Representative Ferrari, I didn't realize you were the co-author of the Guardianship and Conservatorship bill, so you truly were a champion for doing what you're doing, so thank you very much for that. Okay, sorry about that, Councilor.
No need to apologize. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. And now our last proclamation of the day. As Auditor Colon mentioned, it's really an exciting day. This proclamation is in recognition of Women's History Month. So I think Ellen Van Wee, I don't know if you're up here. Eileen, I've met
Eileen
only on.
isn't, but I'm wondering if others would, from the league, would step up and accept this. Bobby,
Any,
go.
no?
Come on over.
The League of Women Voters. There are lots of league folks, I think, in and around. Thank you for jumping in. Hello. Whereas extraordinary women, many of whom are represented here today, have fought tirelessly to broaden our democracy's reach through protest and activism, and whereas American women of every race, class, and ethnic background have made historic contributions to the growth and strength of our nation during critical political, economic, cultural, and social roles, and whereas women have marched for the right to vote, not just so their voices would be heard, but so they could have a seat at the head of the table. And whereas there have been many patriotic women that have not only shaped the destinies of other women, but also the direction of our national, state, and local histories. And whereas women suffragists have helped shape New Mexican politics, women such as Carrie Chapman Catt, president of the National American Women's Suffrage Association and creator of the League of Women Voters, Nina Otero Warren of Santa Fe, and Laura Frenger of Las Cruces Ina Sizer-Cassie, and all those women, past and present, who have served in the city council seat and who have helped shape the political landscape of New Mexico's various municipalities. And whereas women have been leaders not only in securing their own rights of suffrage and equal opportunity, but also leaders in corporations, finance, healthcare, law, technology, education, and the military, which create a more fair and just society for all. And whereas we celebrate countless pioneering women and the victories they won. When women succeed, America succeeds. Now, therefore, we, the Mayor and City Council of Las Cruces, New Mexico, do hereby proclaim March 2022 as Women's History Month. We're gonna, if you're up for saying a few words, but we'll have everyone come down and take a picture as well, so. Dr. Bobby Green, Vice President of the League of Women Voters.
Thank you so much. It is an honor to stand before you today on such a wonderful occasion. We are so proud of our honoree, Doris Hamilton, who I've seen as a young child. I watched her for many years. She has been a mentor, she's been a role model, and she's always done it with a smile. And so I'm very proud of her today and what she stands for. I walk in her footsteps, and all the women who have come before us, all the beautiful trailblazers who have opened the way for us, who have fought the good fight, and we will continue to do the good fight. We're not done yet. Senator Papin, we are not done yet. And so I want to say thank all of you for the honor today. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for the time. And thank you for allowing the women, the beautiful women of the City Council to work with you. Thank you so much for that. We appreciate it. You don't have a choice, but thank you anyway. And so congratulations to all the beautiful women for Women's History Month. Thank you.
I'm sorry.
Frances Williams is a real trailblazer, and she's been an EEOC officer, and she's also just, I think, the only woman who's been recognized and has a plaque up at White Sands, something. Anyway, she's all over the place, but Frances Williams, thank you for being here today.
Okay, that was really good. Appreciate everyone's attendance. It's really made it a very special day today. Okay, I have a conflict of interest statement that I read at every meeting, council meeting. I'll ask if any member of the city council, city manager, or any member of the city staff has any known conflict of interest on any item on the agenda.
None.
None, Graham.
Okay, now we're going to go to public participation. This is where members of the public can speak to council for up to 7 minutes total. 3 minutes here at the podium, and 4 minutes if you have an item you want to talk about that's on the agenda. If you can't wait until that agenda item is comes up to the during the schedule, you're welcome to say couple words now. We probably won't be able to respond to you. So I usually start on my left, and I usually start on the first row. So anyone on the first row? Second row? Third row? Yes, ma'am. Just come forward, please. State your name. You have 3 minutes, please. This podium right here?
This one right
yes,
here.
ma'am.
Okay.
And you can move the microphone down.
Okay, definitely. Well, good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, City Council members. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm Marcia Hokanen, co-president of Las Cruces branch of AAUW. I thank you for this opportunity to appear before you, to read this letter letting you know how proud we are of you, you ladies. First, I have to tell you that when I was in college years ago, there was a slogan going around: a woman's place is in the House, and the Senate, and the City Council. As an organization whose mission it is to move women forward, we are all about equity. And I have to add that we are just as proud of our honorable mayor, Mr. Ken Miyagishima. Well, we have a letter presenting to the dear City Council members. On behalf of the American Association of University Women, Las Cruces, we congratulate the women who have become city councilors. We recognize you worked hard to attain such important positions and are proud of our city for electing all female councilors. It is a significant benchmark in the progress of women's equality and in our city's evolution. AAUW has been empowering women as individuals and as a community since 1881. For 140 years, AAUW has worked as a national grassroots organization to improve the lives of millions of women and their families. We established our Las Cruces branch, the first in New Mexico, in 1923. And since that time, we have almost always been the largest branch in the state. As we approach our centennial next year, we are heartened by the progress women have made in Las Cruces, so visibly represented by your achievements. As you settle into your roles, we know you will be making difficult decisions and tough choices. We also know that you will be spending substantial time helping our community. AAUW Las Cruces is grateful for your dedication and commitment to making Las Cruces a stronger, more prosperous city. Congratulations, again, for this historic accomplishment. I have one other issue I have to address today, and that is why we are wearing red. According to the National Committee on Pay Equity, March 15th is Equal Pay Day this year. This date symbolizes how far into the year women must work to earn what men earned in the previous year. Let's put it this way. Women in general are already in the red, having to work an extra 2.5 months to earn the same pay as men for equal work. This time is even longer for women of color, and we'll never catch up. AAUW is also known for research. Our latest national research on equal pay called The Simple Truth just came out. I will leave copies for you with the clerk so that you will have a better understanding of how inequity impacts women. And thank you so much. We have AAUW members here, including Doris Hamilton, who was an AAUW member for many, many years.
Okay. Sure. So it looks like the women counselors, they want to take a picture? Yeah. You guys need to start charging. You need to start charging $5, $10.
I'm getting.
Thank you. Please reach out anytime.
I volunteered to help, but. Oh, that's terrible.
Okay, so that was our, I believe, 4th row. Anyone on the 5th row? 6th row? 7th, 8th, last row. Anyone else on my left? Okay, I'm going to switch to my right. 1st row, anyone? All of you are on the 1st row?
They're gonna stand behind me, Mayor, if that's okay.
Okay.
All right. Good afternoon, Mayor Miyagishima, Mayor Pro Tem Gondra, and councilors. We would like an extra minute or so on our remarks today, if that's okay.
State your name.
I will. Yeah, so I'm Tara Winter. I'm the president and CEO of the Community Foundation of Southern New Mexico, and I will let you know of everybody behind me in just a moment. Today, this is a unified statement from the 9 organizations who were recommended for the ARPA funding by the city's Review and Scoring Committee. As organizations that have a high degree of collaboration, we want to share that we have a united in our comments today and our continued dedication in serving city's vulnerable residents as we have for many decades. We come to you with our observations, concerns, and recommendations about proceeding with dispersing these monies, which have been approved by Congress a year ago, nearly a year ago to date. We are all trusted organizations who have been consistently working to be of service to people disproportionately affected by the pandemic. We will continue to provide crucial services to residents, but we could serve thousands more if we receive these funds. We have not been allowed to defend our proposals or to speak to the process. You have not asked for our recommendations of how to proceed now that the RFP has been tabled indefinitely. At the last meeting, most of us were present, yet we were effectively rendered mute in this public forum. In an effort to appear equitable and transparent, the council has created a disjointed process shadowed by political and personal bias that is delaying vital services to families. In addition, dragging out this process is detrimental to the trusted relationships Las Cruces non-for-profits have intentionally and strategically built over the last several years. But please know, we will not allow this to drive a wedge between all the applicants who are valued partners in what we do. The RFP process includes scoring based on a metrics city staff reviewed and this council approved. Our projects were deemed eligible under the Treasury's interim rule and the Office of Management and Budget's uniform guidance. Our submissions address crucial questions, including needs identified to the strategic and consolidated plans. We provided all the supported documentation to allow our organizations to sufficiently be evaluated. We were deemed the most likely to succeed and that our success would have the most impact serving vulnerable residents of this city. Our proposals not only clearly responded to the public health emergency and its negative impacts, but were also based on best practices, had strong rationale, and were data-driven. We can't ignore these factors. The process was not perfect. Even the audit was flawed, particularly in its observations of violations to the city's procurement code. However, this is factually inaccurate, and it was countered by the city manager at the last council meeting. Also, any discussion of opening the process to additional applicants is inappropriate due to our scored and recommended proposals being made public as part of the audit. Our 9 organizations collectively estimate that 2,000 low to extremely low income residents will be helped in our projects were funded by the intended by ARPA legislation. There is an urgency to address the negative impact of the pandemic on our most vulnerable families. In conclusion, our recommendations are that no member of the City Council be allowed to participate in the evaluation and review process that would thus create an appearance of impropriety. Any proposals not previously scored by the review committee should be allowed an opportunity to defend themselves as to whether they address the ARPA's intent, but then be evaluated and scored by the city staff under the same rigorous scrutiny that we were given. We recommend that the city identify our resources to fund projects that may not initially been qualified, such as the Telshore Fund and any federal and state monies, including funding for infrastructure and education. Finally, we recommend that our 9 projects be allowed to enter into contract negotiations with the city as they are. Thank you so much. These are the 9 individuals behind me. Juan Oliva, Executive Director, Mesilla Valley Public Housing Authority. Don Z. Hummer, the CEO of Community Action Agency of Southern New Mexico. Stephen Rice, the President and CEO of New Mexico Housing and Community Development Corporation. Nicole Martinez, Executive Director for Mesilla Valley Community of Hope. Ashley Echeverria, Chief Executive Officer for Boys and Girls Club of Las Cruces. Kenneth Ferrone, Executive Director, Catholic Charities of Southern New Mexico. Dr. Michelle Adames, Chief Executive Officer of Jardín de los Niños. Brian Kavanaugh, from Chief Executive Officer from FYI, and myself. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. You want to speak, Francis?
Yes, please.
Well, again, I want to thank you for our beautiful counselors. But I also want to say,
state your name, please.
My name is Frances F. Williams. I've lived here 69 years, and I love Las Cruces. I have to tell you that we have with us the national president of the AAUW, and that's Ms. Julia Brown, who is the ex-manager, county manager, and I wanted to acknowledge that. The second thing I want to remind everybody of, which nobody mentioned, New Mexico passed the Equal Rights Amendment in 1973. It struck down 40 laws that discriminated against both men and women. One of the things that we gained from is that women were allowed to attend New Mexico Military Institute. And when that happened, everybody said that school is going to go to hell in a handbasket. Well, it's better than it's ever been. The other thing it struck down, most importantly, is that a woman under the territorial constitution, there was, when you divorced or whatever, you had community property. But if you died as a woman, you had no right to will your property. And so as a result, and we had 2 cases like this, a woman died, her half of the community property went to her husband. He did not have to pay taxes on it. Now, if he died, he could will his half of the community property, which 2 people in Las Cruces did do, to their girlfriends, and the children were cut out. It also struck down many laws that were discriminatory toward men as far as getting their children in a custody battle, etc. So I want to salute that and New Mexico for passing that. And the last thing I want to say is that today we are acknowledging what is happening to the Ukrainians, is it Ukraine or?
Yeah, it's the country of Ukraine.
Yeah.
And I see you're wearing their colors, too.
I'm wearing the colors because I am half Ukrainian. My grandparents left due to the Tsar and to Stalin, and they were pushed into the Pale because they were Jewish. And as a result of that, they were treated terribly, and my family experienced that. Interestingly enough, as much as they hated the Jews, we have a Jewish president who has absolutely been wonderful. So I want to let them know, and I'm sure Las Cruces is in agreement with those people who are fighting for their lives. God bless them, and God bless America. Thank you.
Thank you, Francis. Thank you, Francis. Thank you for all that you've done for all the many residents here in Las Cruces, for all the years that you were at White Sands Miss Orange as well, and all that you've done. Okay, so I guess we don't have anyone. Oh, yes, come forward. Just need you to state your name, please.
Hello, Council, City Manager, Mayor, City Attorney. My name is Rudy Rayada Aragon Sr. I'm here for the same reason why the 9 people who were in front of me were here. I cannot believe that this committee tabled something that has such an impact on the city. These 501c are working for free. You're sitting on $10 million, and it says 2020, what? You guys have till 2024? And definitely, what's going on here? We could take time to rezone something that's been sitting there, a golf course for some housing that we dramatically need for this community. Trust me, I know. But what about our 501c's that have been sitting on this money? How long does it take to sit there and make a board and a committee and get some money rolling through here? I mean, it doesn't take much but a couple meetings. Very disappointed. And Ms. Bancomo, thank you for stepping up for the 501c's in the last city council meeting. I'm sorry I wasn't here. I'm sure there was more through the council, but very disappointed. In our city, if people that don't know, mayor is more of just a title. The city manager runs the city. Every single employee, the city manager runs. That's why he gets paid the money. We paid him a lot of money from the state that he came from. A mayor is nothing more than a title. He's not in charge of anybody. He's a public figure. It's the city manager that runs this city. For people that don't know this, the recognition should be going to the council and to our city manager. That's who runs this place, not the mayor. And for 10 years, I've sat there and watched you do nothing to help the city, these children. Nothing. But you have a great day. And thank you, ladies, and congratulations. It is a Women's Month. And congratulations on you guys. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Rudy. So that was the 3rd row. Anyone on the 4th row? 5th row? 6th? 7th? 8th? No one else on my right? Okay, I know there's a couple people who came in later. Anyone have any comments they'd like to make to the City Council before we close the public participation? Okay, we'll go ahead and end that. So I've got a closed meeting statement to read. Las Cruces City Council met in closed session at 11 a.m. on February 28, 2022. The following members were in attendance: Councilors Flores, Corran, Bencomo, Graham, Abeta, Gandara, and myself, Kenmi Agashima. Excuse me. Staff present was Ikane Tamopeo, Assistant City Manager, Adrienne Widmer, Assistant Director of Utilities, Joshua Rosenblatt from the Utilities Department, Barbara De Leon, Chief Administrative Officer, Jennifer Vega, City Attorney, Delilah Walsh, Director of Utilities, Robert Cabello, Deputy City Attorney, Eric Enriquez, Assistant City Manager, Ifo Pili, City Manager. Meeting adjourned at 12:13 p.m. And for the record, Las Cruces City Council been in closed session and only discussed those limited items as stated in the posted notice, which was to discuss pending litigation regarding the United States Environmental Protection Agency Region 6 in the matter of the City of Las Cruces, docket number CWA-06-2022-1710, which is closed pursuant to NMSA 1978, Section 10-15-1H, number 7. Okay, so now we're going to go to acceptance of the agenda. Need a motion and a second, please.
Move to approve, Bencomo. Second, Abita.
Okay, motion made by Councilor Bencomo, second by Councilor Abeta. Christine?
This is on the motion to approve the agenda as presented. Councilor Abeta?
Yes.
Councilor Graham?
Yes.
Councilor Bencomo?
Yes.
Councilor Corran?
Yes.
Councilor Flores?
Yes.
Councilor Gondeta?
Yes.
Mayor?
Yes. Okay, we're at 8.1, Resolution 22-109. Need a motion and a second.
So moved.
Second.
Who was the second? Bencomo? Okay. Motion made by Councilor Flores, second by Councilor Bencomo. And I think Rocio Gamboa will be making the presentation.
Greetings, everyone. Mayor and City Council members, Rocio Gamboa, Budget Analyst. The resolution before you is to accept 2 federal operating grants, 1 private foundation grant, and 4 modifications. The Las Cruces Police Department has been awarded a grant from the U.S. Bureau of Justice Assistance. The Bureau of Justice Assistance allocated the jurisdiction shared by Las Cruces Police Department and Doña Ana County in the amount of $42,952. Doña Ana Sheriff's Office is designated $12,668, and Las Cruces Police Department is designated $30,284. Funding will aid in purchasing of protective equipment for Las Cruces Police Department Patrol and Special Weapons and Tactics Hostage Negotiation Team, and for DASO's Patrol Division. HIDA has 4 agreement modifications, 3 through 6, for FY21. The 4 modifications reduce the total award by $42,778, leaving the new project total at $1,260,212. Quality of Life has been granted 2 grants. The first is for $35,656 from FY22 ARPA grant. The library will use this funding to support its community adult learning initiative, which is designed to provide adults, particularly those communities disproportionately impacted by the pandemic, with the GED, high school equivalency, ESL, and citizenship classes, exam classes. The second award is for $18,500, and the funding will support the Museum of Nature of Science and community-based partners to continue providing a science curriculum and programming to more than 800 students in Las Cruces, expanding access to and promoting STEM learning to traditionally unprecedented communities. This is the 5th year the city's museum system has been funded for this program. And that shall do it for this month. Here are your council options. I will stand for questions along with Madeline Shea from Grants. We also have representatives from each department available today to assist with any questions.
Thank you, Rocio. Questions from council? How about members of the public? Okay, seeing none. Christine?
This is on the motion to approve Resolution 22-109. Councilor Abeta?
Yes.
Councilor Graham?
Yes.
Councilor Bencomo?
Yes.
Councilor Corran?
Yes.
Councilor Flores?
Yes.
Councilor Gandara?
Yes.
Mayor?
Yes. Okay, item 8.2, Council Bill 22-016, ordinance number 2994. Need a motion and second?
Move to approve. Second.
Motion made by Councilor Flores, second by Councilor Bencomo. And Rob Cabello, as Deputy City Attorney, will be presenting. Looks like we're getting our money's worth out of you today.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Council. I'm Deputy City Attorney Robert Cabello. I'm here presenting an ordinance to amend just one section of the Emergency Declaration Ordinance, Section 938. And to give you some background, back on March 27, 2020, I believe that was a special session for that one, Council approved Ordinance 20083, and that was creating the Emergency Declaration Ordinance that created these sections 935 through 941. And essentially under that, the mayor can make a proclamation for a 3-day term for an emergency, and then the city council can later vote and extend that proclamation for 14 days. And again, this was a response to COVID. Now, the proposed ordinance only makes one slight change. It actually takes out just a few words in section 938, and those words are, "but such time shall not exceed 14 days." And this would allow City Council to extend proclamations to run the length of the governor's declared state of emergency. And the purpose really for this was this. When this was first created, no one knew what the emergency was. And generally emergencies, when people think of it, it connotes something that's discrete or certain events that are certain sets of events that are connected or that are discrete and essentially end at some period of time. They're events like either, I think from forest fire or brush fires or things like a natural disaster, like from the weather. But this was, COVID, and it lasted essentially 2 years. And as part of that, what I think of it is that after we passed this section of the Emergency Declaration Ordinance, we had, I think it was a total of 9. I looked it up. It was like something like essentially 9 different resolutions to keep extending things to go with the masks, and then we had different. So I think the purpose of this was, again, in case we have an emergency that is not necessarily discrete, like something that occurs over a weekend or something that lasts 2 years, we can have a proclamation and an extension of that runs the length of the governor's declared emergency. And with that, these are your options.
Thanks, Rob. So we probably need some questions. Councilor Flores?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Attorney Cabello. So the other part I think that makes sense to amend this is because there was an enforcement issue coming from the governor. Only state police couldn't, I might be wrong about that, maybe Chief Dominguez, thank goodness he's here, so he may correct me or you, Attorney Cabello, but my understanding is that the state passing restrictions, the enforcement would fall on state police, and local police, our police, LCPD, did not have the jurisdictional power to do that. Is that one of the reasons we're doing that too, or is that one of the effects or consequences of having this kick in, passing this emergency, quote, emergency measure and let it run as long as the governor's order runs? Thank you.
Mayor, Councilor Flores, that's partially correct. So if there was an issue with enforcement, what if the extension to the proclamation, sort of, if it's extended past the 14 days, then we don't have any ability to enforce our own proclamation. We're stuck with, essentially we have to rely on essentially state actors at that point. And this would allow, again, if we have we can actually have now the ability to run the proclamation, if the council chooses, obviously, to run it, the length of the state of emergency that's declared by the governor, and then you end up, again, in in congruence with the also the state health orders, you can actually run those. You can actually do enforcement based off of that now, not just leaving it to the state. Did I answer the question?
Kind of, sort of, but.
I apologize. What I mean is this.
Well, it seems to me that I remember people. There was an incident, I remember, at Walgreens where we didn't have anything in force in the city. And I think the Walgreens, I can't remember, but it was a drugstore, and there was an incident, and I think LCPD was called on, and our department, and I think, if I recall correctly, and if I'm wrong, Chief Dominguez, please correct me. What was said was, what I understood, what I recall was that police and the police department could really not do anything about enforcing it because it was a state order, and state police would have to enforce it. So that, to me, that would be the rationale behind changing, changing the statute, the ordinance we have now. Do you recall that, Chief Dominguez?
While he's making his way up there, let me see if I can jump in real quick, Councilor. So, and this is good for Councilor Corran and Graham. So the rules allow council to make an item more strict than the state. We can't be more lenient. So if you recall, and this is before the vaccine, we actually made it a requirement to wear masks both in the city hall as well as various stores. And by doing that, we had to do it we had to bring it back every 2 weeks. And this, by doing this, then we don't have to do that anymore. But when we pass a city ordinance or a city proclamation, then the city police have the right to enforce that. I think you were just wanting to know about the state. I mean, whether or not they can probably still enforce the state, but I don't think that that's something that they currently do. So, Chief, did you want to chime in?
Good afternoon, everybody. Chief of Police Miguel Dominguez for the record. Mayor, Councilor Flores, that's correct. The mayor just pretty much said what I was going to say. When the order came out, the public health order came out from the governor, we were having issues with the enforcement. With the proclamation that the mayor passed, we were able to then enforce the mayor's ordinance, or the mayor's proclamation, sorry. So we were able to do that. The incident at the drugstore, the mask was an issue. However, there was an assault, and we were able to look into that.
But that was independent of the mask issue.
That's correct.
Yeah. Thank you, Chief, and thank you, Attorney Cabello, and thank you, Mr. Mayor.
I guess by doing this, it just, just gets it done instead of having to bring it back every 2 weeks, and then it was igniting a lot of tension. And this way here, we just pass it once, and it goes away. Once the governor's proclamation ends, then ours ends. Is that correct, Robert?
Mayor, Council, that's correct.
Okay. Any other questions from Council? Members of the public? Yes, please come forward. Just need you to state your name, please. And you have up to 4 minutes, please.
Hi, thank you. My name is Sierra Angel. I'm a resident here in town, business owner, and I just think it's important right now for us to be separate from the state on something like this, because we're not like Santa Fe, we're not like Albuquerque, we're different, and having something that's just extended where our governor can control us, I don't think is comfortable as far as I'm concerned in my own area. I like that you guys had to come back and look at it and keep doing that kind of stuff. I think that makes you do your job too. So I just want to state that. Thank you.
Thank you, Sierra. Anyone else? Okay, seeing none. Christine?
This is on the motion to approve Ordinance 2994. Councilor Abeyta?
Yes.
Councilor Graham?
Yes.
Councilor Bencomo?
Yes.
Councilor Corran?
Yes.
Councilor Flores?
Yes.
Councilor Gondeta?
Yes.
Mayor?
Yes. Excuse me, yes. Okay, item 8.3, Council Bill 22-017, ordinance number 2995.
So move, Gondeta.
Second, Abeyta.
Okay, motion made by Mayor Pro Tem Gondeta, second by Councilor Abeyta. Kathleen Harrison Rogers will be discussing.
Good afternoon, Mayor, members of City Council. Catherine Harrison Rogers for the record. I'm here to discuss a proposed zone change at 2700 North Main. This particular property, you all may know it as the Old Country Club property. It's approximately 75 acres. It's currently vacant. It is zoned R1A. So at present time, if the property owner chose to develop it via subdivision, they could place a little more than 600 single-family residential lots if subdivision were to occur. This is located at the intersection of North Solano and North Main. They're both arterial roadways. And generally, this area contains a lot of mixed uses. You have commercial uses to the west and the north. There's that medical campus that's essentially central to this, a little bit to the north as well. Residential to the east, it's a long-standing neighborhood, the Old Country Club neighborhood, as well as some mixed uses to the south, including multifamily, some institutional uses, and some commercial uses. Here's some maps just to give you a sense of the scale. Of course, this red outline is the property in question. You can see, although this isn't showing the development that exists today, you can see these properties in the center here are that medical campus, and the hospital has been constructed and is operational now. And this remaining piece highlighted in the yellow is the property that we're speaking of. Again, Apodaca Park is located just to the southwest of the property. That historic country club neighborhood is over here to the east. Commercial properties flanking it to the north, and then of course the west, and then some other residential properties beyond that to the north. The proposal today is a zone change from R1A to multiple zones, and I'll go over the details in just a bit. The applicant, as part of the submittal, has requested to adopt the Apodaca Blueprint as the applicable master plan. The Apodaca Blueprint, of course, was adopted back in 2018, underwent its own separate public process as part of that. Just so that you all know essentially what we're looking at in terms of what a master plan is supposed to mean, essentially under the guise of the city's regulations, is that it's a conceptual tool, reflecting the thoughts and the ideas for future development. There is some flexibility built into those. Ultimately, that master plan identifies the general access, the general circulation, land uses, overall densities, infrastructure design, and other design requirements for future development. A couple of things that are being requested as part of the proposal are variances to the front setbacks to allow for build-to lines in keeping with some of the recommendations of Apodaca Blueprint that I'll go over momentarily. Apodaca Blueprint, as I had stated before, was adopted by City Council in 2018. It proposes essentially a mixed-use town center that's also reflected in the Elevate Las Cruces comprehensive plan. There's a large pedestrian focus in that particular master plan that really highlights pushing the buildings and the frontages to the street to really try to activate the street frontage for pedestrians to be able to walk and recreate and do business in those areas. Again, this is conceptual. It is aspirational in terms of the types of goals it's trying to achieve. It gives a range of approximate densities and locations that ultimately the developer would be beholden to. It also describes the general access and circulation of those major roadways throughout the property, and also identifies areas for future land uses. And again, there's a menu of recommendations about how to accomplish that. I know that this is hard to read these labels, but I can give you a general sense of what's located here. And you all did receive a copy of the Apodaca Blueprint in your packet, and hopefully you were able to familiarize yourself with that. There's several character areas that the applicant is proposing to try to utilize as part of their proposal. There are areas identified as the Apodaca Preserve. That's this green area here and in these areas as well. Cottage residential, that's this yellow area that I'm pointing to here. We also have something called the Flex District, which are these brown areas. a townhouse district, which borders Apodaca Park. We also have several commercial areas. Ultimately, there's the town center right here, and then the commercial center right here. And I'm going to go over the applicant's plan so you can see generally how it correlates to this. So the applicant is proposing to rezone this to several districts, utilizing generally the locations that were identified in Apodaca blueprint. So area 1A is being referred to as the open space district. It was listed on the original plan as part of the Apodaca Preserve, but again, these are sort of split into separate areas. And at this time, they're proposing an open space recreation as well as an R2, which is our multi-dwelling low density zoning designation, specifically in this area. Area 2A, this brown area here, is considered a flex district that's really intended to meet the market demands at the time of development, and has a range of different zones so that it can accommodate those market needs. Also located is 3A, this very sort of long, skinny finger right here. It was identified as the Apodaca Preserve in the Apodaca Blueprint Plan, and is also being referred to as the same name. And it is also being identified as having a desired zoning of open space recreation as well as R2, which is again that low-density multifamily zone. There's the townhouse, there's the cottage residential, which is the 3B, which is this area also bordering the country club residential neighborhood, recommending a high-density single family as well as that low-density multifamily zoning, R1B and R2. Really intended for single-family, townhomes, duplex types of patio homes, those types of units. Also townhome residential, this area 3C, which borders the Apodaca Park. It should be noted that in the blueprint plan, there is an area that was identified as being part of the Apodaca Preserve. That has been incorporated into this, but there's several conditions that apply to that to ensure that open space and parkland is dedicated as part of this. And again, they're proposing a mix of uses here, R4, which is a multifamily zone, as well as C2, which is a commercial zone. There is area 4A, which is the town center, really intended to be a true mixed-use center with multifamily and commercial throughout. And then 4B, which is the commercial center, which is your more typical, perhaps shopping center commercial that you see throughout town. Staff did reach out to the public in a number of ways as part of the process. Initially, the applicant was requested to go through the early notification process as outlined by our code, which means that they sent out notification to properties in close proximity to this, just to let the neighborhood know, hey, we're getting ready to apply for a zone change. If you'd like to have a meeting, please let us know. As at least I'm aware, no one reached out specifically in that circumstance to request a neighborhood. However, we did host a neighborhood meeting in December. We did have several neighbors that had reached out both to staff as well as city council, and we thought it prudent to go ahead and host a meeting. That did occur. Again in December. As also part of the process, we sent a number of reviews, of course, to the relevant agencies in MDOT, as well as the departments throughout the city, to review the zone changes, the types of uses being proposed, whether or not it met the intents of our code. Also, notice was sent out to surrounding properties, both for Planning and Zoning Commission meeting as well as City Council meeting. It should be noted because of the large width of the right-of-way along Main Street, staff did extend the boundaries of the notification much further than we would normally for zone requests of this type. We sent it to an 800-foot radius as opposed to a 500-foot radius, which is standard. Generally, the input that we received from the public was just questions about the process and what all of these zoning categories meant. There were also concerns about the state of the existing property, specifically having to do with weeds, vagrants, and vermin. There were several questions related to traffic or congestion and connectivity, basically that might be caused by the proposal and any future development. There were some discussions about drainage and how that would be taken care of. Some other questions related to park connectivity and expansion, including some proposed trail connections that the Apodaca Blueprint plan specifies. There were also some questions about the consistency with Apodaca Blueprint. I do believe that all of you, both in the packet and then later on, I know that Christine emailed you or delivered copies of some questions about that from one of the constituents in the area. And that person is also here today to speak on this. We did receive 2 formal statements of opposition to portions of the request, and I did receive an additional email over the weekend that basically stated that they wanted to be consistent with Apodaca Blueprint. During the Planning and Zoning Commission that was held on January 25th, 2022, staff did recommend approval with conditions. Planning and Zoning Commission did agree with those conditions and also recommended approval to City Council. We did have one member of the public who spoke against the project, who is also here today, generally with concerns about the zoning and whether it meets the intent of Apodaca Blueprint. Today, your options are to vote yes to approve, to vote no to deny, to vote yes with conditions, and either vote to table. I did want to mention, I'm not going to go over them unless the council would like to hear them. I do have the list of conditions which were included in your packet. They are lengthy, but I did want to point out what, at least from my professional opinion, is the most important and key condition, which is that any future development on the property must adhere to the Apodaca Blueprint. And with that, I'm happy to take questions. I do know that the applicant's representative from Tetrad is here with a presentation, and there is one specific member of the public who has requested to speak, and I believe the mayor granted her some time.
Yes, thank you, Catherine. Can you go back to the picture that had the map of the different zoning? There you go. And then I'm going to, or that one or the other one. I just wanted to, yeah, let's leave it that one. And then I'm going to see if council has any questions. And then if the public has any questions of you, and then I'll let the representative speak. We have Mayor Pro Tem, Councilor Flores.
Thanks, Mayor. Thank you, Catherine, for your presentation. Always very thorough. Thank you. I have some questions about consistency to the Apodaca Blueprint. I know you've sort of did a high-level thing. Can you tell me how consistent their recommendations in terms of proposal is to the blueprint?
I would be glad to answer that to the best of my ability. Mayor Pro Tem, Mayor, members of council, ultimately, the code that we have is not a perfect fit with the Apodaca Blueprint. So we're working within the tools that we have. Mm-hmm. And based on staff's review and the multiple nuances that are actually outlined in our code having to do with a number of things, I won't go into specific detail about that, but we feel as though the conditions that we've placed upon this, specifically the condition I mentioned about adherence to the plan, that does meet the intent and the spirit of the plan. There are things that we could argue, and there are probably 3,000 ways this could have been put together.
Sure.
Again, with the tools that we do have, we do feel as though this is appropriate.
Thank you. Thank you, Catherine, for that. I know there was some concern about traffic congestion, speeding, those things. Can you talk to me about what those conversations were like, with Tetrad in terms of a traffic study, and if one was done, because one has been done, maybe a couple in the 10 plus years that we've been working on this. Maybe it's not quite 10 years, but feels that way to some, I would say. Yes. So can you talk to me about that? specifically?
Absolutely. So as many of you know, and you have alluded to, there have been several processes that have started but have never come to fruition regarding this particular property. And as parts of those, there were traffic impact analyses that were done at that time. As TIAs, as we call them, do have a time frame in which they are essentially good based on the background traffic and a number of other things. They would have to go through a process by which to do another traffic impact analysis at the time of subdivision or any other site development. And as part of that, our engineers, as well as the DOT, would review it to make sure that traffic's being mitigated, that there are improvements being done to mitigate any additional impacts, as well as even improve existing impacts. And as we develop any subdivisions, and if this is ever built out, what we would also look to is guidance from the blueprint about recommended cross-sections to make sure that those adhere to that as well, so that those roads are constructed in a way that council and the general public wanted to see when that was vetted in 2018. And so there will be a robust review process as we move forward. It's embedded and standardized as part of our codes, and is also a condition that we've listed as part of the zone changes.
Yes. So Catherine, through your discussions with them, how soon are they wanting to, if approved by council, to subdivide?
That's an excellent question. I will actually defer to the applicant on that. As I understand it, they're ready to move forward, at least with maybe some short-term projects, but ultimately I'd like to defer to
Sure,
that.
absolutely. Thank you, Catherine.
You're
and
welcome.
Then before we move to that question, can I just ask one more question? In terms of code, I hear a considerable amount of complaints about trash, weeds, dead trees, things of that nature. What can you tell me related to that in terms of the number of code violations, or just, I know codes likes to get to people, right, voluntary compliance. So can you talk to me in relation to that and what they're doing to actively pursue those complaints?
Those are also excellent questions, and I may defer to Chief, but I do know a little bit about it. There are regular complaints. I do know that there was a brush fire a couple of years ago that was problematic. There have been issues with vagrants. There was a request, and the applicant did, at least, and they've tried several times to close up the building that's there. That's been problematic, but they have secured it. However, vagrants continue to break into it, and that's been a problem. As I understand, they've been notified about weed problems. I do know that there's some regular maintenance, but that's a really large property, and just certain times of year it can be problematic. And I'm not quite sure if Chief can address any of the other codes operations, because ultimately it's in their court. But those are excellent questions, and I do know we've worked with them actively to try to take care of some of those things.
Thanks, Catherine. If Chief could answer that, I just want the public to be aware that, I do receive complaints. They're passed on, they're worked on. We use our Mano y Mano program, which is that workforce reintegration program that also picks trash and such from the other side of the fencing area, but it continues to be a real nuisance, and I feel that I have to make, mention of that, if you will. Thanks, Chief.
Good afternoon, Chief Miguel Dominguez for the record. Mayor Pro Tem, there is currently an ongoing project there that is an area that gets a lot of trash, basically because of wind. It gets trapped in there. We do have an ongoing project in there. We have had compliance from the property owners going in there and helping us clean out. We've had volunteers going in there and cleaning, the Mano y Mano folks. Yes. And it was an outstanding job. We did have an issue with the vagrants going in and out. That I'm aware of, that issue has been resolved. But that building is still there, and they try to get in there every now and then. But it was boarded up.
Thank you.
Really good.
Thank you so much, Chief. And then if we could have, I know Cassie has an opportunity to speak to.
Mayor Pro Tem, I'm sorry, I've still got.
Well, I asked the question. It was, and Catherine referred to.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So if I could have her answer that, that would be great. Thank you.
Sure, Cassie Pabin, Councilwoman. To answer your question,
I know you had a couple of them that were kind of deferred to me. I think both have a little bit been answered, probably more so by Chief on the last one. I'll touch on that one first, and then future development plans. We are actively trying to work, as you know, it's a large property. We have secured the building itself. That is something that we're continuing to look at. There's fencing up, we've boarded, we've reboarded. We know that there's been vagrants in and out of there. So it is one of those, I think at one point in time, someone had tried to start a fire inside of it, which was really unfortunate and dangerous not only to themselves, but to the surrounding area in general. So we are actively working through that. As it relates to trees and stuff, it's a process, right? So I know that we actually have some bids out right now to try to get some of those things cleaned up. We're just waiting to get those back. And as you can imagine, people are short-staffed in timely fashion. So we're just, trying to balance all of those things. As far as development goes and timing, I mean, I think we would all be in agreement that we'd like to start yesterday. The reality is, until we get some proper zoning in place, it's really hard to start putting a lot more forward until we have the right zoning, so we can go in and either secure potential users for the site or start the process to decide and develop the types of units, whether it's residential or what have you, as you move through that. I anticipate our team starting on that, I'd like to say tonight. They'd probably all be like, what are you talking about? But yeah, so sooner rather than later, we'll get started. This is a long-term project. It's not gonna be developed overnight. It's going to take upwards of 10 years. By my estimation, to be fully developed. And a lot of that is all dependent upon what happens within the economy and what the market will come to bear. But I can envision some of those early projects, particularly where there is infrastructure in place right now, to potentially take off sooner rather than later.
Okay, thank you. And since you mentioned the building, which is historic in nature and very beloved by many citywide, what are your plans for that building?
That's all part of the discussion. Okay. It actually sits really kind of in that 4B area, almost on the line, if you see where 4B and 4A are split, if you are running that true north-south, or not true north-south, but north-south on the picture. It sits about right in there. So that's part of the discussion, that as we move through this process, what can you do with the building in a development fashion, and what does that ultimately look like?
I would ask that you do everything that you can to preserve that. It's beloved. It's one of the only, right, historic from that particular time or era, if you will. And I'm a proponent of preservation. And so whatever you can do to do that, I think is a must in my opinion.
Yeah, and I would echo, we'll do everything we can as we navigate through what that ultimately looks like. I would say, though, there was some demo that had to be done to that particular building / site that was add-ons that came later in time that were that literally were causing a bigger hazard than not. So as we were in the process of constructing the hospital, some of that was cleaned up as well.
Thank you. Thank you, Cassie. Thank you, Mayor. Those are all my questions.
Thank you. Before I get to Councilor Flores, I just want to clarify a couple things. First off, and correct me if I'm wrong, Catherine, so when this land was acquired, it actually just had one zoning, and it was zoned for just one house, and the rest was all park. So what we're doing here today is, that's why you see these different types of zoning, and then they have these different designations what they're for. So I wanted to point that out. 2 years ago, and I want to say it was in 2016, when this became available, the city actually tried to purchase this. And I had a meeting on this, and the irony of it is this area that's pink or purplish, 4A and 4B, really would be the commercial side. I had told the residents, in order to make this work, this was going to have to be commercial. So that was consistent with this. So I just wanted to point out those two things. And the last is, I know we discussed this as a TID. This is not a TID. This is actually the residents, the developer coming back and utilizing what the city has available to any developer. And this is nothing special, no favors. They're doing it like any other developer would be doing it. So these are the different designations that they feel that they can make it work, and the bottom line is we pay zero. We're not giving anything back. They're doing all this development, and we would benefit from the various property taxes that it generates, as well as the plan that they have shared. So I just wanted to point out those things. Okay, so Councilor Flores.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Ms. Harrison-Rogers. You mentioned that there would be traffic impact analyses, and I know that those are usually done after everything's been planned out. And I also know that they run anywhere from $12,000 to $20,000. So who is responsible, since there's one owner, but then there might be getting different developers for the different purposes, for the code changes and all that? How would that work? Because I think you mentioned, because there is a big concern at the December 9, 2021 meeting, there were people there who I think they were all concerned about the traffic. And so if you could address that, and then I have other questions too. Thank you.
I'd be happy to address that, yes. So generally, as they move forward, in order to sell a piece of property, they would have to subdivide. Either subdivision or commercial site development or any development of any import would require a TIA. One of the other things that we've added as a condition is that, frankly, anything that they do to the site, whether it be one single-family home or an Applebee's, would require a traffic impact analysis.
At what point, excuse me?
Absolutely. So it depends on what we're doing. So if somebody came in and they were to, let's say, subdivide 4B, and that was the first initiative, they would be required to submit a TIA at the time they submit that application for a subdivision. Now, if they choose not to subdivide and rather just lease the property and construct a building, they would be required to do a TIA at the time or prior to a building permit. So it depends on what they do. But generally, I would imagine that they would start with subdivision. That's the more standard procedure, is to start with subdivision. And they would be required to submit it at that time.
And that would be the design of the subdivision? Is that what you mean?
So traffic impact analysis, generally when they're required at the time of subdivision, they have a sense of how they want to lay everything out, but that TIA can influence whether or not a second access is needed, or turn lanes, or a new traffic light, those sorts of things. And it really can impact the design somewhat, but definitely impacts the way those things are all constructed.
Okay, and it can also influence, or it can make or break the deal. I mean, we had that situation south of University, that southeast of University, where they attempted to do this development, and the room was full with everybody. It was an uproar, and the development didn't go through. And people, yeah. So my concern is that they're in a big hurry, with all due respect. I don't mean anything personal here, but they're in a big hurry to move forward at this point. But they've waited 2 years, maybe 3 years. I don't know, they've waited a while before moving forward. So can we move that fast in terms of keeping them happy and wanting them to develop that land? I mean, they want to move yesterday or today or this morning or something like that. And I just don't know how fast it's going to move. I mean, we all know that things take maybe a decade to get done just because of everything. So why are they in such a big hurry now?
Members of City Councilor, Councilor Flores, I don't know that I can actually answer that. I'm not the applicant, but they would be beholden to any of our rules and regulations as outlined in our codes and would have to follow the same processes as anybody else.
Okay. And they're not seeking any funds from the city. They're not going to come back and ask for a TID.
They have not, Councilor Flores, members of City Council, they have not approached me or shared any of that information with me. As I understand it, they will be funding the development in this area or their subsequent partners and or purchasers.
Okay. And I really do want to emphasize that I think that with all due respect, they've been slumlords. I mean, it's really an eyesore. I think that the vagrants are attracted to it because it's in such a dilapidated form. And it just looks so uncared for. And so I do have a concern as to, well, there's a lot of concerns. But so the city's been cleaning up private property? Is that what it is? With the people, the city has been going out to, our Keep Las Cruces beautiful team has been going out to clean up that property, and it's private property, is that correct?
Councilor Flores, members of City Council, it is private property. I'm not sure of the program. I think we have a lot of programs throughout the city where neighborhoods come together and members of the neighborhood come together to assist and clean up. But as I understand it, there have been a lot of initiatives in terms of volunteers as well as the property owner cleaning up the property.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I just would like to ask the property owners that in the meantime, between now and 10 years when everything's developed, that they keep that area clean. It's just kind of, what's the word, disrespectful to have your land just sit there and it's an eyesore. And of course, it's the fire, this, that, and the other. The other question I have is, all these changes are being made for that area with our existing codes, is that correct?
Councilor Flores, members of City Council, that is correct. We are utilizing the tools that we have in our existing codes.
Okay. And you did say that the tools that we have don't necessarily conform to the Apodaca blueprint. And what exactly would it take to have our Apodaca blueprint, or what code changes would have to be made to conform to that, or what exactly is it that's not consistent with the Apodaca blueprint? Thank you.
I'd be glad to answer that. Councilor Flores, members of City Council, our codes are not developed in such a way that they're form-based, meaning that they focus on the physical form and how it interacts with the public realm. We don't. The closest code to that currently would be our downtown development code and somewhat the university design, the university district. Those do have some form-based components. Apodaca blueprint, mind you, includes a whole bunch of other land outside of this particular area. This is focus area A, and one of the recommendations in that was to actually be able to utilize more of a form-based code. Elevate Las Cruces also mentions that as well, and as we move forward in Realize Las Cruces, which is the new code amendment that we're working on, we do anticipate additional form-based components to be brought into that could in the future at least help with the development of this area.
Thank you so much, Ms. Harrison-Rogers, and thank you, Mr. Mayor.
You're welcome.
Councilor Abeta, and then.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Ms. Harrison-Rogers. I just wanted to check in on a couple numbers. I myself look at this blueprint and I see a lot of the elements of Elevate in here, of connectivity, and really recognizing the strong need that we have for additional housing in our community, especially if we want to attract families and a workforce. With that in mind, the original zoning would have allowed for about how many residentials?
I'd be glad to answer that. If subdivided, so it has to be predicated on that. If subdivided, it would be a little over 600 single-family housing units.
Okay, thank you. And then with this type of development, we recently passed our Complete Streets Ordinance. Would those design principles be put in place with this type of community?
That's an excellent question. Members of City Council, yes, they would. And one of the big focuses of the blueprint, if you've been able to review that document, was really to try to incorporate a lot of those ideas and concepts. And so as they develop any street cross sections, any local roadways, we would ensure that they do that.
Okay, great, thank you. And I know hopefully that can be a comfort to residents, knowing that those types of systems are in place to really look at safety. I think my last one, and a comment on the building that's historical, I think just to know, I'm sure there is a balance that you guys are going to have to make with the liability of the property itself and the safety of it versus the preservation. And so I don't envy you those choices, but I know that's something that you'll have to think about. Thank you, and thank you, Mayor.
Councilors Bencomo and then Graham.
I'll pass it. Councilor Graham, her light was on first. Okay, I will go. Thank you. Thanks, Mayor. And thank you, Catherine, for the presentation. I have a couple questions for you and a couple questions for the developer. And I'm so sorry, I forgot your name. Please repeat it when you come. Thank you. Well, let me see which ones I'll start with because, okay. The ones that don't have any color, Catherine, those are the areas that in the conditions you're referring to in terms of future development, right?
So, Councilor Bencomo, members of City Council, so these that are not in color are not subject to this zone change. They are already zoned. Okay. They went through a separate process years and years ago, and essentially a medical campus, the type of zoning that's applied to it's for a medical campus. And of course, there's the hospital that's already constructed right there.
Yes, okay, thank you. You know, one of the things that we discussed during Realize Las Cruces was the reality that often we have a lot of unfinished subdivisions, right? And so I'm just curious, Catherine, how you're thinking about how you're working with developer, with having those conversations as we're redeveloping our code and all of that, and to ensure that we don't have any of those incomplete subdivisions in the future.
Thank you. That's a great question, Councilor Bencomo, members of City Council. Ultimately, as development proceeds, depending upon the processes that they go through, generally starting with subdivision, they would be required to construct all of those roadways and wouldn't be able to utilize those lots or even record the plat and sell those parcels until such time those are complete or they provide us a financial security in lieu of that. And they would also not be able to do any site development until the subdivision's deemed substantially complete. It's a policy that we've had a long time in the city and that we're trying to incorporate into our new code amendments moving forward so that we don't get left with basically incomplete infrastructure.
Okay, thank you. That's really helpful. You don't see any sort of challenges in the future given the redevelopment process?
Also, another excellent question. Members of City Council, Councilor Bencomo, that's hard to predict. There are, even if you think a project is running smoothly and is going by the book, sometimes there are bumps along the road. You just don't know. I would hope, just with all of the regulations that we have in place, we wouldn't face any hurdles that we couldn't overcome utilizing our regulations.
Okay. Thank you.
Councilor, can I ask you two things? One, maybe after we have another presentation from Cassie, I know you had a question to ask her, but when you finish, I want to just kind of explain a couple things why you may or may not see empty lots not being constructed.
Okay, thanks, Mayor. And then my other question, I don't know if this is relevant here, but because we're having a conversation about gas utility and not doing gas expansion, what are we looking at here in terms of utilities?
Councilor Bencomo, members of City Council. So generally, as part of the process, when infrastructure is being constructed and designed, gas is always included. That's something that historically we've wanted to have in place. I know that there's a shift in terms of the desire from council moving forward to greener types of fuels or options. But at this point in time, that's something that we do request as part of the process and is standard when construction drawings are developed.
Okay, so given that we've said, right, we don't want any new gas lines, would this property require new gas lines?
So that's a really excellent question. That's something that generally I would probably leave up to utilities to answer, simply because it's their system, and we respond to their needs. If they deemed that no, we don't want to see gas lines in this particular subdivision or development, we would respond in kind.
Okay, and I see Delilah coming up behind her, Mayor.
No.
Delilah's like, no.
Thank you, Mayor. Delilah Walsh, Utilities Director, for the record. Mr. Mayor, Councilor Bencomo, under ordinance, if a customer requests gas lines, we do have to provide it. And just with any utility in the city, if a customer requests it, we would provide it. We don't install lines based on speculation, though. And that's what the council has told us. We don't want to speculate growth or speculate expansion of the system. But if the developer needs it, if there's an economic need, or, you know, I can't think of an example off the top of my head, then we are by ordinance required to provide any utilities requested within the area. But we won't speculate.
Okay, thank you, Delilah. I appreciate you clarifying that. And then I think maybe my next couple questions are for the developer, Mayor. Is that okay? Can I go ahead?
Well, I was going to see if we can have Councilor Graham ask the questions, then that way they're. But
actually, maybe just this one might be for Catherine, actually. In terms of the building that Mayor Pro Tem referred to on here, has it been designed as a historical site? And I agree with Councilor Abeyta-Stubbe's comments on this. I just think preservation is so key, especially when our city, frankly, has not been great at it, right? And, I've had such a hard time, pumping millions and millions of dollars into renovation projects that where I feel like those dollars could be used elsewhere. And so I'm just curious, I am curious in terms of, has there been some sort of study done on the building in terms of, is it salvageable, those kinds of things, Catherine?
I can answer portions of that, and I do think that Cassie will probably need to expand upon it. But members of City Council, Councilor Bencomo, the building, Cassie did refer to some demolition. That was for those portions that were not sympathetic to the historic structure. And so those were taken off. So the historic structure, the Trost and Trost building remains. I do believe there may have been some general studies or analyses of the site, and that would have been by the Goldenrod or Tetrad companies. It was not through the city, and I think maybe Cassie can speak more to that. It would be an expensive endeavor to make it a usable structure. However, that being said, we do have a historic preservation ordinance, so they would be subject to review by that commission, and they would have to go through any processes required of that, whether or not it remains and it's preserved, or whether it goes away just simply because it's not feasible either structurally or otherwise.
Okay, thank you, Catherine. Thanks, Mayor.
Thanks, Councilor. So just a couple things that you touched on, and then we'll let Councilor Graham have her questions. First off, regarding the building or the wall, way back in the very beginning when I was talking with Mr. Wiegert, I did bring that up, and he assured me that if he could, even if it meant keeping one wall, he would incorporate that into the design so that people can still see that this was a Trost design building. The second, as far as the gas, I know it was the intent of new additional lines, and I think Delilah discussed that, but if you were to go back, and this would theoretically, I don't know if he considered a infill, but there are gas lines there already, and all they would do is just hook up to the main gas line. So it's not like they would be putting in new ones, because there was the country club and a few, and of course those residences nearby. And the last one is, in my opinion, the reason why you see some developments that aren't done, I think a project this large, and we can ask Cassie this, they're probably going to do all the infrastructure at one time. They're going to take out hundreds of thousands of dollars or millions to put in that infrastructure, the roads, the curb and gutter, the water lines, the sewer lines, everything. And if they sit there without selling the land, they're just losing money. If you see that happening in other locations, it's because there's so many different places to build in the city. And the reason why you've seen Metro Verde really come out really good is because Moscato and his partners, they researched what Las Cruces likes, and that's why they built over there. And you see a lot of very sustainable type homes. So that, in my opinion, is why, because they're not going to, every developer, they have a lot of money tied up into that development, and I don't think they're going to just let it sit there. So I just wanted to say those few things. Councilor Graham?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you so much, Catherine. I'm new here. This is my first major development project, so I feel like this is great. I'm learning a lot. Councilors Abeyta and Bencomo actually voiced the majority of the concerns I had, particularly revolving around safety issues and thinking about, this is a great time to keep thinking about our Complete Streets initiatives, the opportunity to kind of build from the ground up with these concepts in mind. So just wanted to say how great that is. And I think the other thing that I wanted to bring up, read through the Apodaca blueprint. Thank you for including that in our packets. And I think your entire presentation has spoken to what I'm about to bring up. Just a couple of quotes, and this probably, some of your initial slides were talking about the purpose of master plans. So development proposals should not be constrained by rigid adherence to these conceptual boundaries. Character areas serve as general guidance. They are not regulatory or static. And finally, it is not a design mandate for the focus area. So I think, I'm maybe just looking for a little more, and I feel that this is all the due diligence that staff has put in, that planning and zoning has put in, and probably not even a question, just a comment on the nature of master plans. And it sounds like, it's not a written in stone thing. It's a guidepost. So yeah, probably not even a question there, just more of a comment from someone who's learning the pathways here. That's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Oh, good interpretation. I agree with what you're saying, Councilor. Anyone else before we go to Cassie and have her presentation? Okay. I'm sorry. There was a question by Ms. Simmons, I guess, to ask of Catherine. Please come forward. Just state your name, please.
My name is Ernestine Simmons. I'm a homeowner here in Las Cruces. You mentioned, I think, that you'll have 600 residential units. I just wonder if you've considered how many of those might be designated for affordable housing. I should say affordable housing.
That's a really excellent question. Again, Catherine Harrison Rogers with staff. So potentially, if they were just to subdivide today with the zoning on hand, they could get about 600 units. What they're proposing is a little different than that because it's a range of different types of uses, but probably would land in relatively the same range. While affordable housing has been discussed, it's not something that has been made a condition. However, I do know that there had been some interest in some of the property from our housing division. There had been some interest from an affordable housing developer specifically on this site to option an area for affordable housing. I may turn to the developer to speak to that a little bit more. I just have heard it through the grapevine from our housing division.
Okay, thank you. Cassie, yeah, if you want to make your presentation, then council will ask you some questions.
Sure.
I just need you to state your name also.
Cassie Pagan with Tetra Property Group. A lot of what I have in here is fairly similar to what Catherine has already gotten over, so bear with me a little bit. I just want to give you...
Turn that mic a little bit towards you.
There we go. I just want to give... Yeah, I'd like to see everybody here. So that way I'm not blinding everybody or not approaching them. So a lot of what you're going to see are things that Catherine has already covered. I want to kind of take a little bit of a deeper dive into how we came to where we came, because contrary to popular belief, there's been a ton of work, particularly over the last year, on this particular site itself to even get us to the point where we're in today. So while it might seem like we're in a hurry, this has been a long time coming. And truthfully, I would tell you from a market standpoint, not just for Las Cruces, but in a variety of regions that I have the opportunity to work in, timing is everything right now, particularly with the market and some of the issues that we face. That said, so the map here, this should look familiar. The area that we're talking about is the area that has the red lines through it. It's approximately 75 acres. The application does not include this area here, which is the hospital and medical office building, and it does not include these lots up here. Part of the reason why it does not include those lots up there is because we do not control those lots. That's about 10 acres up here. And then we have the real estate ownership of the hospital and medical office building. As has been said on a couple of different occasions, this application is purely for a rezone. We're not talking about any new developments coming in. We're not talking about infrastructure today, although that is part of the conversation that will be rapidly coming forward. But to get us to a place where we can fully start to make plans to show you, similar to the document, and I can't think of the page number in the Apodaca blueprint where it shows the buildings within there. This is necessary to even get us to that point today. As currently sits, and Catherine has kind of gone over this, the area is currently zoned as R1A. That means we could get about 600 units of low density single-family residential on there itself. Per your code, here are the different uses and types that could be granted straight up through the code or with conditions or special use permits throughout there. As you can see, the current zoning on it is fairly limited. I think we would all be in agreement that this property has a higher and better use, as has been shown through the Apodaca blueprint, which I would be remiss if I didn't say we were not a part of it. We actually purchased the property after the blueprint was adopted. However, I have had the opportunity to speak with Christian at Health, who was kind of the lead in putting the Apodaca blueprint together. So I kind of understand some of that, as well as spending hours with city staff talking about the blueprint. I'm sure they see me call and they're like, oh boy, now what question does she have? But this is where the impetus really for this application has come from, because this is a site right smack dab in the middle of the city that has a higher, better use than 600 single-family residential houses. This picture should also look familiar. Catherine brought this up. This is straight from the blueprint. A little bit of information about the blueprint. And I would also say, and I know this question came up at the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, the application does not cover the Apodaca Park itself. And part of the reason why it doesn't cover that is because you all own the park, we don't own the park. We see it as an amenity, we see it as an attraction. I think that there's a lot of potential users at the site, as well as potential residents at the site that would also agree that the park being right next door would be a benefit to being there. These next pages kind of walk through some of the characteristics that were outlined within the Apodaca blueprint that specifically relate to our proposal itself. This was a process that we went through, lots of conversation back and forth, lots of calls, emails, lots of hey, Catherine, hey, David, what if?
What does this mean? A lot of deep dive, and really starting to take a look at, okay, we have 75 acres, trying to keep in spirit with this guiding principle, and how do we best match those up? This next slide, too, is just another portion of the blueprint itself that speaks specifically to the golf course property itself. As you guys may know, the Apodaca blueprint covers lots of different parcels, but specifically these areas are for the application we're talking about today. So then we come along to the zoning and the areas. A couple of things with this that I want to point out. So on here, you'll see a variety of lines. So like you see this line here that divides 4A and 4B. You see this fun little shape that's 3C. Part of the reason that we have the lines on there is to give a general idea of where these areas would be at. It is not a plat. I think that's the biggest thing to remember too. This is simply just a rezone with some lines designated as to where these areas would generally be. Within the 75 acres, though, I will say there are two parcels that are part of this. You see here and then here. Those are separate platted lots that encompass within there. That is part of, I would say, our strategy long-term, as this is an opportunity zone area, and so how all of that functions through from a financing side on the development end was necessary to make sure that we had that created. When we first came, and after a lot of conversation with city staff, not just planning, but as well as public works, talking about infrastructure, talking through what it would take, where it would be at, sorting through all the other stops and starts that have happened over, I would say, the last 10 years on this property. We decided to move forward with a rezone, knowing that the city is currently going through a code rewrite, but because time is of the essence, we did not feel that we had the time to wait for the new zoning code to come in, which is probably, and correct me if I'm wrong, but about a year out, a little over a year out. So we moved forward with this. Our initial proposal was C3 for the entire 75 acres. As you can see, this is a far departure from that. We broke it up into the zones as we discussed. And then the other thing, and we can certainly talk through it if you'd like, Catherine had mentioned the various conditions that were placed within there. We actually self-imposed a handful of those conditions and talked with staff about some of the other conditions that they were thinking to make sure that the spirit of the blueprint was still intact. So this was something that definitely from our original request to where we are today has been months of work in the making. We are fully aware of the conditions. We can live with them. If we couldn't, I don't think we'd be here, to be quite frank with you all. But that's where we're at. I know during planning and zoning and through a couple of other channels, there has been some concern about whether or not our proposal is following the intent of the blueprint. I've had the opportunity to work on mixed-use developments like this that take 10, 15 years, and I know I don't look it, but trust me, I've been there and I've done it. I've had an opportunity to work on a lot of these in the past, and this is one that, a master plan, Councilwoman Graham, you're right, it's a guide. It's a starting point, it's a launching point that kind of gives you that framework to work from. And so as we move forward, keeping the spirit of this in mind with this, outside of the names, which was more so on our end to ensure some consistency between the two documents, so we were all on the same page, same paragraph, same sentence, same word. We really believe the multi-use approach or layered approach that we have really does follow the intent of the blueprint. One of the common misnomers is that the blueprint says it must be like R1B. Nowhere in there does it say it should be this or that, which is why we're at where we're at today. So with that background, I apologize for the length and repetition, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Well, I know Councilor McComo has some questions for you, and then we'll go with the rest.
Thank you, Mayor. Actually, I just have one question because my other one was regarding the conditions and if you all had seen them and were okay with them, and you answered that. Honestly, my other question too was around just the trash and the fence. I know it's hard. Even if you clean it up today, it'll be windy this weekend, and however, it just doesn't look very good right now, and the fence is also in bad condition, and that was my only other request I had for you today.
Councilwoman Cuomo, I would tell you that is one thing that we're monitoring. As I mentioned previously, we're waiting for some bids to come back based on the code violation I think we received towards the end of 21. Trying to make sure that that's addressed in a way. There's about 3,000 different ways you could go about it, but you're right. I mean, I arrived yesterday and saw one thing, and then when I was out at the site this morning, it was completely different because wind, right? And I'm sure when I go away from here today, I'll see something different than I saw just 8 hours ago. But it is something we're monitoring, making sure that we have the right people in place, because it is going to become more critically important, particularly as more people enter the site.
Right. Thank you. Well, I certainly hope you don't leave with allergies as bad as mine.
Actually, my allergies are much better here than they are back home, so.
Jealous. And then the only other thing too was the building just has a lot of graffiti and all of that. So I know it's tough, but thank you, I appreciate it. And I'm glad you all came back, and I'm excited to support.
Yeah, it's tough, the building, and I'll touch on that because I know it's come up a couple of different times. It is tough. It's a delicate balance. It's something, we've looked at what is salvageable, what isn't. It all is partially too dependent upon what ultimately ends up going there and what you can do. I would tell you though, there has been, and we've been part of them in the past, where we've taken historic buildings and been able to incorporate walls within it to, for example, like leave an envelope, if you will, but the inside you'd have no idea. So there's different mechanisms that we'll evaluate, but a lot of that's going to be dependent upon when that comes forward and what ultimately lands there.
Thank you.
You're
Thanks,
welcome.
Mayor.
Thank you. Councilor Corran?
Thank you. I appreciate your presentation, and I think I just sort of have, as everyone loves, always more of a question, more a comment than a question, but I just want to appreciate and recognize that shifts from R1 to R2 and R4, I feel like in our community there's a really huge need in the affordable housing context, but also in the sort of mid-range context for more housing in ranges and these are places that are adjacent to an enormous park that could be the heart of our city. And so I think for families and young people starting out, I really appreciate your inclusion and the orientation toward kind of increasing the density of the housing in this area. And so I just wanted to appreciate that. And I know that I'm in the district that is the most guilty as far as single family housing. So I want to see it there too. But I really appreciate the representations of R2 through R4 in this. And I thank you for including that and as part of the blueprint as well. So.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? How about members of the public have questions of Cassie of this presentation? Okay, you have questions of? Okay, you want to come forward, please? State your name.
I got this paper
yeah,
saying that they're going to.
State your name, please.
Oh, my name's Genevieve Trevino, and I live next door to commercial. Heaven knows what I live next door to. I live at 2035 North Solano. I got this paper saying you were going to redistrict. If it's about the country club, well, that's a whole different area. I live very close to Apodaca Park on Solano. I don't really mind them bringing in anything on that place. It's fine. It's just there. But I was just wondering, are you going to redistrict or rezone my property? No?
No, because you live within a certain radius. The city sends out a certain,
right,
whether it's at 500 feet or 1,000 feet, to every homeowner to let them know that there's a possibility of this rezoning may take place. It's just a courtesy for you in case you wanted to come to, like you came here today.
Oh, yes.
Just to hear what's going on.
Okay, it was nice coming because Doris Hamilton, I was a school teacher like her, and I knew her back 30 years ago. So, okay, thank you very much for your help.
Yes, ma'am. Anyone else? Yes, please, if you want to come forward, just state your name.
So I don't have a question. I wanted to give testimony. I requested 5 minutes.
Okay, so let me just, before you do, so there's no one else here to ask questions of Cassie? We'll go right into your presentation, ma'am. It looks like we're good. Yeah, go ahead, please.
Yes, Mayor, I requested 5 minutes. Is that possible?
Sure, of course.
Okay, great. Thank you. Good afternoon, Mayor, City Councilors. My name's Eva Navarro St. John. I'm the president of the Country Club Neighborhood Association. Yeah, no, the main point, again, I'm trying to make is related to consistency with the Apodaca Blueprint. And so I just want you guys to really carefully look at the maps and to see that the commercial, the area that's already been zoned, which is the 35 acres, has been zoned for C3, high-intensity commercial, and R4, multifamily high-density residential. So that's the part they said that's not being included. That's the medical complex. Then we have the 4A and 4B, which Apodaca Blueprint does recommend be commercial. So the request for C3, high-intensity commercial, is consistent with the blueprint. So now you see we've taken up pretty much most of the area already. That is leaving 47 acres that has not been zoned high-intensity commercial. So that is the portion that I really want to make the case for that is not being consistent with the Apodaca Blueprint. Now, again, I agree with everyone. The Apodaca Blueprint is a guiding document. It is not, you know, like a recipe that has to be followed by any developer. That's not what I'm saying. But the 5 districts that were identified in the blueprint and the zoning that's requested for those districts are substantially different. And so I just want to briefly as I can, because I know nobody likes zoning, talk about those districts. So the one is the Area 1A, which is the open space district. That is green up there and also green on the blueprint. And on the blueprint, it is 100% open space. And the application is requesting R2 zoning, which is up to 15 units per acre, including apartments, with up to 50% of that as residential. Then the Area 3A, which backs up against the neighborhood, the Apodaca Preserve, that was supposed to be in the blueprint, open space corridor set aside for public use that links Apodaca Park with the outfall channel trail. And it was recommended that no more than 10% of that area be used for single-family residential. The zoning is requesting R2, which is significantly higher than single family at 15 units per acre, including apartments, with up to 50% of total acreage for residential. So again, that is very different. Now, Area 3C is townhouse residential. The blueprint recommends 100% residential in the form of 2- and 3-story attached housing units. The application is requesting R4 and C2. Under R4, the only kind of residential that can be built is mobile home parks and apartments. Townhouses cannot be built under R4. So there is no, that's obviously totally inconsistent with the title, townhouse residential. And then C3 is commercial medium density. The area for the 3B, cottage residential, the blueprint provides for small lot, single family, and townhouse development, with townhouses representing no more than 50% of total units, and a maximum height of 2 stories where it abuts Apodaca Park. The application is requesting R1B, single-family high density, up to 12 units per acre, and R2, multi-dwelling low density, up to 15 units per acre, including apartments. And again, that area is right alongside the neighborhood, and that was the intent of the blueprint, that any development alongside the neighborhood be as low density as possible. You've already got, as I said, most of the other acreage already high density. And then you have the area 2A, which is the flex district, which is kind of the transition, supposed to be the transition between low-intensity residential and the more high-intensity uses. And the blueprint provides for a professional office and small lot, single-family, and/or townhouse residential. The application is requesting R3, even higher yet, multi-dwelling medium density, up to 20 units per acre, O2 office professional, and again, C2 commercial medium density. So did I run out of time?
You almost finished?
Yeah, almost finished.
We'll give you a couple more minutes.
So in closing, we all want to see this property developed. The various owners have intentionally let it deteriorate ever since the Las Cruces Country Club was scammed into selling the property and forced into bankruptcy about a decade ago. So I'm just here to remind you of your responsibility as the representatives of the citizens of Las Cruces to make sure that development of the property is done in the best interests of the city of Las Cruces. Once the zoning for this property is approved, your ability to impact the development of the property will be very limited. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any questions of Ms. St. John? You have a question, Councilor?
Yes, thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Ms. St. John, Nevares St. John. What specifically in the presentation that Ms. Harrison Rogers gave, what specifically are you? What's your concern? Your concerns are multiple, but these are the zoning. Okay, so Ms. Harrison Rogers indicated that the codes that we have cannot conform to the Apodaca blueprint. Mm-hmm. So I think that, is that true? And then how your concerns then, the twain shall never meet. Your concerns will never be given the codes that we have, or
I wouldn't say that's actually accurate. I think what she's referring to is like allowing for mixed uses, as opposed to having zoning areas that allow for mixed uses. You have to put separate zones for all the uses that you want to use. Is that correct? But basically, as far as whether the zoning that would be matching to what the Apodaca blueprint recommends, you could use those zones. Again, you'd have to have multiple zones to meet all the uses, especially say in the flex district, where you want to have more than one type, residential and office, for example. But what they're asking for is beyond that. When they're asking for commercial in an area that's recommended for only residential, that has nothing to do with it being authorized by the code. That is asking for something that's not consistent with the blueprint.
Okay. So then my question would be for Ms. Harrison Rogers. Catherine, I'm trying to reconcile what the blueprint says and what you're proposing today. And I was at the Apodaca, Councilor or Mayor Pro Tem Gandar and I were there at the, what do they call, charrettes. And there were a substantial number of people there putting their little Post-its up and voting and this, that, and the other. And the consensus has been consistent since then. And I think that Ms. Nevares St. John and Connie Potter have probably been the most vocal. So, and why I said the twain shall never meet is I need to know from you how these proposed changes, you said that you could never, you know, I think you put the idea in my head that the twain shall never meet. So what controls here? What the community wants, what the charrette showed, or what the landowner wants? Because the landowner bought the land, or has owned the land, I don't even know how long, but bought the land, and isn't the landowner pretty much at the mercy of what the codes are? And that's why they're asking for the changes. And what are we changing from? No codes at all there, or what? Is it just a blank? And because as you mentioned the applicant, and so the applicant has come to this board, to it's like a hearing almost, to ask for changes that are not consistent with what the Apodaca blueprint dictates, based on that Half and Associates put together back in 2017, 2018. So my question is, why can't the city have codes that are consistent with the results of the Apodaca blueprint?
Councilor Flores, members of City Council, I'm going to try to see if I can summarize exactly what you're asking. So one of the questions is, why don't we have codes available to essentially make the Apodaca blueprint come to fruition? And if we don't, what takes precedence at this point in time? Am I correct in summarizing that?
Well, what I'm saying is that you've come up with codes that are consistent with the wants and desires of the landowner. Because it seems like, I didn't see the representatives say, no, we don't like that because we want this, that, and the other. So you got that partly right, but the part that I'm asking is, are you, in fact, deferring to the wants and needs of the developer over the wants and needs of the community and as our blueprint?
Members of City Council, Councilor Flores, ultimately, staff worked a long time to review this particular proposal against the Apodaca blueprint. Our code has a lot of nuances. It's not, it's pretty complicated. It's like a 600-page document. So it can be a challenge to try to fit things in a neat little box. We've done our best to try to adhere to the Apodaca blueprint. And as I had stated during the beginning of the meeting, I think the most key condition that's been added as part of the zoning is that any future development adheres to the Apodaca blueprint. What that means is that when any applicant comes in to develop a particular site, we will consider the zoning. As they're developing it and creating a plat, we will also consider the ranges of densities that are listed in the blueprint and a number of other development recommendations as outlined in that blueprint as they develop any sort of site. So at least in my professional opinion, we are trying to adhere as closely as we can to that Apodaca blueprint. There are some areas I know that Ms. Nevares St. John had pointed out, and I would like to speak to those in a little bit more detail. So she did mention like the Apodaca Preserve, which was this open space area. It's these areas in green, ultimately. there had been some recommendations in Apodaca Blueprint that 100% of that stay as open space. That is an aspirational goal. I realize that's a really nice goal. But again, the developer didn't have to include those in the zone change. They could have developed them as single-family homes under their current zoning of R1A, which they're vested and are allowed to do. And so as part of the negotiations with them, we felt it prudent that at least 50% of those areas be dedicated to open space. And so that's one of the reasons that there's a difference there. One of the other things that I know Ms. Nevada's St. John pointed to was the townhouse residential. This one was a little tricky for us simply because we've got some odd nuances in the code regarding attached units and how many units can be attached. I would like to point out that a townhouse by zoning is a single-family housing product. A townhouse in the building code is something altogether different. It does not have to be on an individual lot. So what's deemed as an apartment can look like a brownstone, can look like townhouses. So as part of the site development, that's something it would be on staff to ensure that it's developed that way. One of the other things that she pointed out is that there's some conditions and there's some allowances for commercial uses. Apodaca Blueprint allows for live-work uses to be converted over time in the lower units. And so the only way to accomplish that was to add that commercial provision. Staff additionally added some additional conditions that were agreed upon by the applicant to limit those in terms of the location and what the primary use was, which is ultimately residential. Hopefully that explains that. Like I said, there are a lot of nuances in the code, and we did our best to try to fit the zoning categories as well as apply applicable conditions that would make it so. Hopefully that answers your questions.
Well, it explains in some way, but it just seems, I still don't understand how the strong opinions of the Apodaca, the Apodaca Blueprint came about. Well, you know how it came about. That was pretty much the voice of the people speaking. So that part I can't reconcile. And I recognize your situation, and I recognize that it is working with the landowner, but I'm still, and I appreciate your work, and I don't want to in any way minimize the work that you've put into this. But, and the one part I am very happy about is of the doing the TIAs at 2 different stages. So so the traffic impact analysis would be done before any construction, and if the traffic impact analysis came back and said that this would overwhelm the neighborhood, you'd have to scratch that plan. But that's about the only safeguard in what I heard today in terms of things not being quite right. Thank you.
David, did you want to?
Mayor and Councilor Flores, if I might just try to give you another perspective of how we came to today. When the applicants came in with the rezoning, staff looked at the Apodaca Blueprint as the starting point, saying this is the vision that we want. We want to see the needs of that. So the next step we took as what zones would accommodate those uses and the type of development that would basically allow this property to be built out to that vision of Apodaca Blueprint. And so we in the department, we call it a pancake zoning. We put all those zonings together, so that allows the uses. And then we worked with the property owner to not scale those back, but to create conditions. And so it would address those situations where the neighborhood was concerned about the potential uses. Like Catherine said, we had to introduce the commercial zone to address that live work, yet then we put conditions that limited under what circumstances a commercial use would. It would have to be specifically to those live-work units so that it's still a residential house, but you have your home occupation or you allow people to come in. So it was kind of a, we started with the plan. We looked at the zoning districts that could accommodate those plans, and then we provided conditions that would meet the intent of the plan again. And so that just to give you kind of the negotiation that went forward to get to where we're at today.
Thank you, Mr. Weir. And so in the event there'd be a TIA after the plans come out and then that first TIA is conducted, what would happen then? Because they'd have to scale down probably. And would they in fact do that? Or just
Mayor
speculate?
And Councilor Flores, basically the development process is right now to activate the Apodaca blueprint, we need to get zoning on the property that would allow the mix of uses that would take place. Typically, the next process is to subdivide those lots for development, and that's the time when the street network is reviewed and that TI takes place. And so either the street network could accommodate the growth, or there would be recommendations to make improvements or safety measures to address that. And so I gave you a long bunch of words to basically say, yes, it will do what you want.
Wow, I'm getting what I want. It must be Christmas. Thank you, Mr. Weir. So my question is, once all the streets and thoroughways are designed, who incurs the cost of the roads and sidewalks for that matter?
Mayor and
The
Councilor
infrastructure.
Flores, the way it's proposed right now would be the developer of that property. They would have to build them to the city standards, and then once they're built and accepted by the city's responsible for the maintenance.
Okay, so you would take a plan, and then, I mean, it wouldn't be like all of a sudden everything's going up at the same time, but you have a plan for a specific area, and so then the sidewalks and the streets would go in there, and streets would be consistent with our complete streets ordinance that we just passed a couple of weeks ago. And the city would be sure to do that. And all of that would be done before the CO issues the certificate of occupancy. Is that correct? Or incorrect, or somewhat incorrect?
Generally correct. Oftentimes, vertical development will take place soon after or start when the infrastructure is being completed, but no building could be occupied until it was accepted by the city, or substantially complete is the term the city uses.
Okay, so because I know what goes on in my district is that things are being done kind of, well, I won't say, but I just want to make sure that those streets and those sidewalks are going in the way they're supposed to be, and the COs do not issue prior to that. So thank goodness we have Ms. Nevada St. John and residents in the area who keep us on our toes. Thank you, Mr. Weir, and thank you, Ms. Harrison Rogers, and thank you, Ms. Nevada St. John, and thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councilor, if you'd like, and because I understand what you were asking, if you'd like, I can read to you, it's on page 3 of the Apodaca Blueprint, the vision statement and the 5 goals. Read it for the record? Yeah, sure. So the vision statement says to strengthen the long-term health of the Apodaca area neighborhoods by balancing the conservation of existing residential character with investment opportunities that diversify overall housing choice and residents' access to local amenities and services. So that's the vision statement. The 5 goals: define future land use and development characteristics of property in the planning area. Number 2, to facilitate new development that jointly benefits property owners, investors, surrounding neighborhoods, and the city as a whole. The 3rd one, mitigate the impacts of development on surrounding residential areas. The 4th is to identify potential enhancements to area-wide public infrastructure and services. And the last one is to address miscellaneous issues identified during the planning process to ensure the long-term viability of planning area neighborhoods. So as what Councilor Graham had mentioned, it was really more of a broad, and that's basically what this is. I do have one quick question. That when you said it, when you brought this up, Catherine, are they going to provide drainage for water flow, or is it just going to roll down the?
Mr. Mayor, members of City Council, that's a really good point. As part of the development process, they would be required to retain any new impermeable area, impervious area on site, so that post-development runoff would have to stay on site. Any historic flow would be allowed to continue through the property. Generally, that is engineered, of course, so you don't create any sort of off-site impact that didn't already exist. And oftentimes, those improvements improve situations that already exist. You can see that in the Apodaca blueprint, there's generally a pattern of flow that exists, and most likely when they begin their engineering, just because of the topography of the property and where the water's already going, most likely they will utilize that and then just engineer it and improve it to what exists today.
Yeah. And so what I was trying to get at, Councilor, is you brought up a good point, and David addressed this, is that the developer installs everything. They put in the water, the sewer lines, the roads, the curb and gutter, the street lights, and then they turn around and give it to the city, which is millions of dollars of infrastructure. But they have to bring it up to city code, and once they do that, then the city takes it over, because it's brand new. And then that's the public-private partnership you see with developers in the city. But I will say this, and I won't hold the applicant to this, but earlier in the presentation, I noticed that they said there was 8 units to an acre. Okay, so that's roughly 5,000 square feet. I'm just using this as an example, 35,000 to 40,000 a lot. Usually it's a 4-to-1 ratio, so you put a house that's 4 times that of the land, so you're looking at about between 175,000 to 200,000, and at today's interest rates, the payment would be in the neighborhood of $900 a month. So I don't know how, that is below what the average median house is today. Again, I'm not holding them to it, but I'm just using this, because you can only build so much on 1/8 of an acre. You know, so they're smaller homes that probably in the neighborhood of 1,100 to 1,300 square feet. But hey, it's a house, and it's according to what I'm hearing, that 900 is less than a lot of rent today. So, anyways, I just thought I'd share that with you because I know you're concerned with that, and so you asked some good questions. Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Catherine, Ms. St. John was, Nevada St. John was concerned about, and specifically, I was writing as fast as I could because I don't have a copy of her statement in relation to 3A and the Apodaca Preserve. Mm-hmm. So, and that intention, we intended for that to be 100% open space, if you will. Talk to me about how much is, and that conversation about how we got to the 3A, which is, right, 3A, and there will, right here, yes. Talk to me about that.
I'd be happy to, Mayor Pro Tem, members of City Council. So currently, the property owner has a vested right to be able to further subdivide the property under the R1A standards. And the mayor had pointed out that it's 8 units per acre. So they're currently vested for that. Those are their vested rights. They can go ahead and develop that way. As part of the process, we understood that Apodaca Blueprint was requesting that 100% of that be open space. However, we were trying as the city to negotiate with them to ensure that open space was provided in this area, including a really important trail connection that's also listed in the blueprint. And it also acts as a buffer for homes in this area. However, that being said, they already have the vested rights to go ahead and develop at 8 units per acre and could have simply left that area out of the zone change request. And then we would have had no open space.
Okay.
So that was really the thought process behind that.
Okay.
And frankly, the developer was good enough to work with us and say, yes, absolutely, we will provide that open space and we'll dedicate ourselves to doing that.
Thank you. That was what I was looking for. I was concerned about that piece right there. I knew that rubbed up against property owners. Currently, we want to have as much as we can in that area in terms of 100% open, but that is super important to us. How does that? I'm fixated on this. I'm fixated on this because I hear Councilor Vasquez and his feeling about the open spaces and what we would be able to do in that area. But okay, thank you. Thank you.
Mayor,
So Catherine was saying that under the existing
I'm sorry,
code-
ma'am. Can you state your name again,
Oh,
please?
Eva.
In all honesty, unless the council asks you questions, really not supposed to respond because you already have used your allotted time, but we'll let you
Yeah, I was just
talk.
wanting to clarify
Yes, ma'am.
that one point. Eva Navarre, St. John. So Catherine was saying under existing code, they could develop 8 units per acre, but with the zoning they're requesting of R2, they could now develop 15 units per acre. So when you were talking about the how much can they put on an acre, well, they can go up. So they can with the, depending on the kind of zoning they're asking for, they can do 15 or 20 units per acre going up. Sorry.
It's interesting, Mayor Pro Tem, when you said about Councilor Vasquez, I was thinking about him too, but I was thinking about it differently because he brought up to me, and that's why I included my State of the City last year about building wealth for individuals, and we specifically talked about duplexes and triplexes and fourplexes where they could live in one and rent the other so that they can build income. So that's one thing, but, and I'm gonna leave it to, because I don't think staff went into detail, but it's up to the owner. But remember when I was mentioning I don't know if I told you, but the city wanted to buy this at once upon a time, and I saw this area, and I seem to recall there's a lot of easements running through here, electrical, easements from El Paso Electric and others. So what that means is they can't really build buildings on there. They can build a road, because if they have to get to it, and they can put trees and things of this nature. But I don't believe they can do buildings, but I don't know. I mean, again, I don't know if that whole thing is full of easements, but I seem to remember that map that, and that's why that worked out good because of it being a buffer, because there's easements there. And El Paso, whoever has the easements, they're not going to let you build the building on there, and the city won't allow that either. Okay, so I think we've got everything covered. Any other further questions from members of the public? Okay, seeing none. So, Christine?
This is on the motion to approve Ordinance 2995. Councilor Abeyta?
Yes.
Councilor Graham?
Yes.
Councilor Bencomo?
Yes, with conditions. I don't know if that needed to be specifically said.
Unfortunately,
It's
you
too
can't. I
late.
don't think you can do that.
That was part of the options that Catherine presented.
Mayor, members of City Council, for clarification, all of the recommended conditions are already outlined in the ordinance, so unless there's an additional condition, you wouldn't have to do that.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Councilor Corran?
Yes.
Councilor Flores?
Yes.
Councilor Gondara?
Yes.
And Mayor?
Yes. Okay, thank you very much for your presentation, and looking forward to some really nice development in that area. Okay, so now we're going to go to board appointments. Let's see. Eric Montgomery, District 5 appointment to the Parks and Recreations Advisory Board. To the Redistricting Ad Hoc Committee, Rosemary Sanchez, District 2 appointment. To the Senior Programs Advisory Board, District 1 appointment, Abel Chavarria. And for District 3 appointment, Charlene Whitturn. And now we're going to go to the Americans with Disabilities Act Committee. I'm going to need a motion, a second, to appoint Susana Santillan, which is a reappointment. Need a motion, second.
Move to approve.
Second, Graham.
Who made the first motion? Bencomo, and second by Councilor Graham. Okay. Christine?
This is on the motion to reappoint Susanna Santillan to the ADA Committee. Councilor Beta?
Yes.
Councilor Graham?
Yes.
Councilor Bencomo?
Yes.
Councilor Corran?
Yes.
Councilor Flores?
Yes.
Councilor Gandara?
Yes.
Mayor?
Yes. Okay, next is Maureen Gant to a reappointment to the ADA Committee. Need a motion second.
So moved, Corran.
Second, Gandara.
Okay, motion made by Councilor Corran, second by Mayor Pro Tem Gandara. Christine?
This is on the motion to reappoint Maureen Gant to the ADA Committee. Councilor Abeyta?
Yes.
Councilor Graham?
Yes.
Councilor Bencomo?
Yes.
Councilor Corran?
Yes.
Councilor Flores?
Yes.
Councilor Gandara?
Yes.
Mayor?
Yes. Okay, to the Convention and Visitors Bureau Advisory Board, Russell Hernandez, reappointment. Need a motion second.
So moved by Flores.
Second, Abeyta.
Motion made by Councilor Flores, second by Councilor Beta. Christine?
This is on the motion to reappoint Russell Hernandez to the Convention and Visitor Bureau Advisory Board. Councilor Abeyta?
Yes.
Councilor Graham?
Yes.
Councilor Bencomo?
Yes.
Councilor Corran?
Yes.
Councilor Flores?
Yes.
Councilor Gandara?
Yes.
Mayor?
Yes. Okay, to the Senior Programs Advisory Board, reappointing Joanne Rodriguez Hott.
So moved.
Second, Graham.
Motion made by Councilor Flores, second by Councilor Graham. Christine?
This is on the motion to reappoint Joanne Rodriguez Halt to the Senior Programs Advisory Board. Councilor Abeyta?
Yes.
Councilor Graham?
Yes.
Councilor Bencomo?
Yes.
Councilor Corran?
Yes.
Councilor Flores?
Yes.
Councilor Gandara?
Yes.
Mayor?
Yes. Next to the Transit Advisory Board, a new appointment, Michael Harris.
So moved by Flores.
Second, Gandara.
Motion made by Councilor Flores, second by Mayor Pro Tem Gandara. Christine?
This is on the motion to appoint Michael Harris to the Transit Advisory Board. Councilor Abeyta?
Yes.
Councilor Graham?
Yes.
Councilor Bencomo?
Yes.
Councilor Corran?
Yes.
Councilor Flores?
Yes.
Councilor Gandara?
Yes.
Mayor?
Yes. Okay, now we're going to go to notice of proposed ordinances. There will be no public discussion. Councilor may ask staff for clarification on the proposed ordinance. Item 10.1, Council Bill number 22-018, ordinance number 2996.
Bring it forward.
Bring it forward.
Okay, bring it forward. You guys learned that pretty fast. Okay, next we're going to go to council member board reports and comment. I just want to ask Councilor Corran, your predecessor, I know we were working, he was getting a lot of complaints from, and I would see them too, from people just speeding in your district, as well as UTVs that are taking off at night and just causing havoc. Is that still the case?
That is still the case, and my understanding is that Councilor Abeyta has the UTVs at a minimum on the health PRC, or quality of life PRC advisory
Yes.
meeting coming up.
Mayor, actually, that's part of one of the issues that I'm going to be bringing up in my report.
Oh, the reason why I'm just bringing that up is because how we were able to, what we were, at that time that was being discussed was the possibility of mobile vans that could take pictures and cite speeders. And so I know that was, this was maybe a little bit before you came on board. Like I said, your predecessor, he couldn't wait for those to come. I just wanted to make sure that you were aware of it. And
No, that sounds good. I haven't heard about any sort of remediation topics, but I have heard from constituents in a couple different areas where this is really significant.
So years ago, we had 5 red light cameras in the city. They were set up, staff specifically targeted the areas that produced the most accidents, like Loman and Telshore, North Main and Solano, although that's been redone. I think Walton and Loman was another. And so Red Flex would actually, that's who we used. There was really nothing wrong other than the fact that Red Flex kind of got caught into a situation and the city just kind of backed away from using them. But it would really slow down speeders. I mean, they were just, it really did. I mean, it was people got a little mad, but after a while, it really did help. I mean, the city, although they never disclosed it, you had like a 5-mile-an-hour buffer. So if it said 35 and if you're doing 39, you still wouldn't trigger. But you go past 40, then it would. And so what I'm trying to say is it was very successful, but because of the controversy surrounding it, we went away from that. So this would be something similar, and it would be pretty much, I think, either the purview of the city police or public works, because what we had seen came from the city of New Orleans, and they use it very successfully, although we never used it to generate income. We use it to put back into roads. So we never used it to supplement our budget. It was only meant for the police and to add to their budget, or in the roads in this case. So I just wanted to make sure you were aware of it, because we get a lot of emails from your district, and I just wanted you to be aware. So that was it, and I think Ifo and his team are still working on it and bring back something to council to see what it would take. That's all I have, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor. This Saturday, I attended the Las Cruces.
Wait a minute, isn't it my turn? Or,
what?
Oh, comments? Ay, perdón.
I'm confused. Okay, here we go. The Las Cruces International Film Festival, I attended and gave out awards Saturday. It was really a great honor to see so many young people in the audience, and just the number of people that it's generated regionally. I had the distinct pleasure of giving a specific award to a film that Councilor Abeyta has been a big part of. It's the board of Bold Futures, and to help me with the title, Councilor Abeyta.
All the World is Sleeping.
All the World is Sleeping. It is people, women's stories of substance abuse and the number of things that they're having to encounter. I haven't had the honor and pleasure of viewing it, and I would love to ask staff at the Rio Grande to maybe make connection with Bold Futures to premiere it, or not so much premiere it, but have it shown at the Rio Grande, just because simply what we are dealing with in our community as it relates to substance abuse addiction, and the number of reports that we're getting from our police as it relates to addiction and domestic violence. I think there's a lot of correlation there, and I think it would be really prudent of us to hear, as we continue to wrestle with this. I know that our community is wrestling with that, very concerned about crime in our community, especially violent crime, the murders that we've experienced in the last month. And I don't think as a city we're straying away from that. We need to hit this hard, and I'm looking to EFO and others. I've made mention about domestic violence conferences and ways by which we can be more trauma-informed. And really, maybe it's a huge media campaign in relation to just letting people know that there's resources available, and to work very specifically about getting a 28-day facility here in our community, something we do not have, that we should have, that we've had many, many years ago in the early 90s, and we've sort of moved away from that. And so if I could, maybe we talk about this at our Health Policy Review Committee, Councilor Corran and Councilor Flores. I think that's probably an item that we've had that we could be discussing. And then lastly, working with our greater chamber. You saw the article, I hope, if you haven't, look for it. in relation to our 10-4 Las Cruces. There's a nice article about the Greater Chamber. Thank you. Special thanks to Sergio for helping put that together. This is a way to recruit and retain our public safety officers, and really bringing to light the importance of community policing, specifically with our business community. And I've gotten so much feedback, received so much feedback in relation to that. So I appreciate the Greater Chamber, Debbie Moore, for assisting with that and being so open. And then lastly, I'm working with them to start a merchant, sort of a neighborhood merchant program that looks also at specific for our businesses in the downtown. I think that's going to be really exciting, lots of energy and positive remarks related to that. And so with that, Mayor, I will turn it back over. Oh, and I just want to say I heard a lot of positive remarks from Councilor Bencomo's visioning group, and I just wanted to say kudos to you, and I won't say any more, so thank you.
What was her speech about?
Huh?
Oh, what were we giving her?
She had an awesome visioning meeting with her district, and I'm sure she'll be talking about that.
Oh,
and I don't want to steal her thunder.
Oh,
I just wanted her to know that I've heard a lot of really positive things.
Oh, okay. Councilor Flores.
I'm very happy that Senator Ben Ray Lujan has recovered and is back in the Senate, U.S. Senate. And I think all of our prayers were heard and answered. And that's really all I have to say. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councilor Corran.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I first wanted to just elevate one thing. The Chandler Tank design conversation at Sage Cafe will happen at 6 p.m. That's at 6121 Reynolds on Thursday. So for the folks who are thinking about the Sonoma Ranch Boulevard, sort of what's happening there and the traffic and the conversations that I know are ongoing, as you alluded to, Mayor. This is one step in that conversation, so I hope that folks in District 5 can join us. And I also wanted to really give an enormous amount of gratitude to Director Welsh and for the tour of utilities and also for the tour of Parks and Rec that we took in the last week. It's really helped me understand how extraordinarily hard our city employees are working and how complicated the things that we consider are. So what does it mean when we consider things like a gas rate increase or annexing part of a public space that then Parks and Rec has to attend to and fit into their rehab schedule? And so I really appreciate the staff that came out and oriented us to that and gave me really a lot of food for thought. So thank you, directors. And that's all I have for this week.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Bencomo.
Thanks, Mayor. Yes, I first want to start off by just giving huge amount of gratitude towards staff that I'll name here in a little bit, and the public who came to my first in-person community meeting. And obviously, you know, Councilor Abeyta and I came on in 2020, and 3 months later we went to Zoom, and I've had, you know, constituent meetings over Zoom that were not well attended. So, getting to do this for the first time in person last week just really lifted my spirits personally, and yeah, I'm really excited. And the way I designed the meeting was I created a visioning session, really. I asked the public to take part in answering 4 questions, which were finish the sentence, I want to live in a city that, the biggest challenges of District 4, the biggest opportunities of District 4, and I want my neighborhood needs ... And so people had a lot of fun. They were really engaged. And then, of course, the later half of the meeting, I'll back up. Carla and I will work on reporting back what participants said and putting that out in my listserv. And I'm excited to share with everyone what came out of that visioning session. But it was really incredible, and it was incredible to feel like there's such alignment in, what I'm advocating for and what the public is, especially residents of District 4, are seeing and needing. But of course, I would not have been able to do this without Carla. So Carla, thank you seriously so much for everything you do, and you're just so brilliant and creative and yes, woman, and I love it so much. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And of course, Jamie helped with the beginning of the planning, but Carla really helped me get it to the finish line. Leanne Demouche, our finance director, was there and gave an incredible presentation. David Cedillo and Tony Trevino on Public Works were there. Fire Chief Jason Smith, Utilities Director Delilah Walsh, and of course Deputy Director Adrian Whitmore were there. Elizabeth Teeters with Economic Development, Larry Nichols and David Weir with Community Development. Sonia Delgado and Franco Granillo with Parks and Rec. Kathy Matthews with Parks and Rec as well, Lieutenant Sean Mullen and Officer Brian Klimek with Police Department, and I think Patty Sines was also there, and Alma Reese were also there. And some of them even live in District 4, so they were there pulling double duty as staff and residents. So I just want to thank, from the bottom of my heart, all that staff. And look at that, my computer died as soon as I read the list. For coming and staying there the whole time. I know that your days are really long anyway, and so I really, really appreciated all of you staying there that entire time. I also wanted to just give a huge shout out to the Las Cruces Film Festival for having such a successful year this year with excellent films, which I also attended the premiere of While the World is Sleeping, and it was heartbreaking and important message, and really thankful for advocates like Bold Futures in our community. Also, shout out to Safe Routes to School. I highly recommend you take them up on their invitation if you haven't already. I walked with 80 plus kids last Friday from to MacArthur Elementary School, and the kids were so excited and so happy to be being dropped off by their parents and walking to school, and got to talk to staff, the Safe Routes to School staff, a little bit, and they're so passionate about what they do, and I'm gonna reach out back to them and have a meeting with them about the needs they see for the program in the neighborhood. And so I highly, highly recommend you all do that if you haven't yet for a school in your district. I don't know if you all noticed, there was a bunch of young people here earlier today. That was an Alma de Arte government class with Ramon Padilla. He brought them just to observe, and I wanted to give them a shout out before they left, but of course they were only here for the allotted 1 hour of their class time. But I just thought that was really cool that they were here. And then lastly, I wanted to ask Aoife, hopefully give us a report back on the Go Bonds and the kind of advertising that we've been doing, because I think they're coming up pretty soon, and so I feel like I haven't seen that much. I know because they're on my calendar, but to make sure that the public knows when they're happening, and that we're casting that net really, really wide. So thank you. Just one last shout out to Carla. Carla, thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Graham.
Thank you, Mayor. Perfect segue from Councilor Bencomo. I'm getting to work with Carla on my first district meeting, which I'm hoping to have for early April. I was also inspired by everything that I heard that came out of Councilor Bencomo's meeting, and word on the street is that Chief Smith taught hands-only CPR at this meeting.
He did. He was a big hit. Not as good as me, I think, but he was a big hit.
This man cannot be stopped in safety, no matter what's going on. So, but no, I've also heard great feedback and getting a lot of good ideas. So keep ears out for that. This part wasn't planned, but building on what Mayor mentioned, going back to our former red light camera system that we used to have. In District 3, there was one of those cameras at the intersection of Lohman and Walnut, and I would also love to see something like that come back, as I've been involved in so many conversations with some of the schools in the area. Also great shout out to Ashley Curry and Safe Routes to School, but the idea that once the crossing guards are off duty, it can be a scary situation, even as an adult, much less sending a kiddo out. So I would love to hear more, Mayor, about, getting some of those traffic calming infrastructure back. And then just finishing up with one recommendation and then a shout out. Recommendation, check out the Las Cruces Bulletin story on the Animal Services Center alum dog who is now, this is so cute. His name is Tusk. He was in the shelter for months, and then he was taken out of the shelter by a really incredible foster family, and he is now at the Village at Northrise in the memory support program. He's a resident kind of staff animal, and there was just a great story in the bulletin on that. And I know how contentious and emotional the animal issues in town can get, and it's because everyone cares so much, but I just thought that was a nice little win. And finally, a shout out to Sierra Vista Trail Run. The 11th annual Sierra Vista Trail Run was held over the weekend. It's incredible to see people getting out as we get warmer temperatures, coming together on public lands. Shout outs to all the finishers, including one in the audience right now. Assistant City Manager De Leon, yeah. So yeah, just great to see Southern New Mexico Trail Alliance and other partners coming together to make sure that we have access to our public lands. And that's it for me today, thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Beta.
Thank you, Mayor. First, I want to say thank you to EFO and Mandy Gus for putting on a media training last week. I was able to attend with Councilor Corran as well and many other staff individuals. I think that was great to see, especially as we go into even the new Go Bond cycle. There's going to be individuals that have to interface with the public, not just the media. So I think that training really extends through everything. And then I want to say thank you. There's been a lot of work being done at the Tony Gomez and Fringer area. As we know, this last weekend there was quite a large event that happened in the district that was very concerning. About, I think on February 26th, there was a pop-up community event done by LCPD. They did a nice meet and greet beforehand. They had members of codes there as well. And so I want to say thank you for that, and to Lieutenant Wiedela. We passed out pizza together for residents. And then we had the second design event for the future of those parks this last Wednesday. Saturday. So there's a lot of activity in this area, good and concerning. And so that's why I hope we keep it in our minds about the needs of that area, not only to revitalize, but also for safety and infrastructure needs. As mentioned before, there is an upcoming quality of life event, and our next month we will be having the UTV and noise ordinance coming to us for review and consideration. I know a lot of work is being done by staff, and my one request, Mr. Peely and I sent an email about it as well, but I think it would be very beneficial for us to have members of LCPD and codes there, since this is the in the weeds portion of policy writing. Their expertise is going to be very valuable, especially when we look at logistics, enforcement, and just how these situations are being handled and looked at by the public. And I think that is about it for me. So thank you, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. All right, EFO.
Thank you, Mayor. I just texted Connie back. It was good timing on the Go Bond question, because that really is the only update that I got today from my staff. So just to give, go down the list of what's coming up. Again, with the theme of kudos to Carla. Thank you for this, Carla. But the Go Bond 22 public meeting, City Council should have calendar invites, but there are a total of 11 public meetings set from March 16th to April 19th. So there's 11 meetings, 9 in person and 2 virtual. And then the dates and locations for the meetings are posted on the city website, on the Go Bonds project webpage under upcoming Go Bond meetings on the left sidebar. So there's the information for that. And I don't know if I have anything else. Just wanted to clarify with the media training. I also want to recognize that. I want to clarify I had nothing to do with that. Councilor will know why I want to clarify that. That would suggest that I had something to do with the good example video that was shared, but just want to give kudos to our communications team and also let council know that there's opportunity if you want to join. We appreciate Councilor Abeta and Councilor Corran joining us, but there's going to be a series, according to our communications department, that if you would like to join in the future, we'll continue to send invites.
Mayor, if I may?
Yes, of course.
Thanks so much, Kifo, for that. I'm wondering if there's opportunity for the GeoBonds going channel change back to GeoBonds and to get it on radio. I think, people having that opportunity to hear that, it seems like that's a big place where people get a lot of information. And I haven't quite seen it on our social media yet. Is that going to be something that happens? But I'm recommending the radio spots.
Okay, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem.
I have a question for you too, Mr. Ifo. So I received a multitude of emails, I guess, earlier today. And it says, be careful, because if you get more than 3 counselors at one meeting, we're in violation of the OMA. So if we say yes to one date, does that necessarily how is that going to be coordinated at your end or on our calendar? Because, yeah, it's kind of messy. I know that last time around, there wasn't I showed up, I remember when Chief wasn't the chief yet. I think I showed up to all of them. But it seems like we have a very active city council that will want to participate as much as possible. Because what's interesting is that different questions come up at different meetings. And because it attracts different people, but we're the same counselors and we have to vote on it. So what do you think, Christine?
So Mayor, Councilor Flores, I know that Annette did put them on all your calendars with the stipulation that no more than 3 counselors can be at one meeting. So, it's a problem for you all to be at one meeting because of the fact that this is something that's coming back to you for approval at a later date. So it's just going to take some coordination with the city manager's office to make sure that you're not all at one meeting.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Anybody else has any questions of IFO?
Mary, if I may, to follow up on, sure. Just got a text as well. So the Go Bond meetings are being advertised in Sun News Bulletin on both radio groups and social media and our website. This is from Mandy. And then a text from Amber. LCPD and codes will be at that meeting. The meeting request from Councilor Beta. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Ifo. If there's nothing further, entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved by Flores.
Second, Abeta.
Motion made by Councilor Flores, second by Councilor Beta. Christine?
This is on the motion to adjourn the regular meeting. Councilor Beta?
Yes.
Councilor Graham?
Yes.
Councilor Bencomo?
Yes.
Councilor Corran?
Yes.
Councilor Flores?
Yes.
Councilor Gondara?
Yes.
Mayor?
Yes. Okay, we're adjourned. It's 4:17 p.m.